What a day to talk sports. Are you kidding me? There is so much going on today. College baseball regionals, live and in action. Diesel and I have a fantastic show lined up for you. Some incredible audio that we're going to get to. Diesel, it's been a few weeks since we've done the best audio of the week, but guess what? We're bringing it back, baby. It's a Tolo Friday. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. And I want to get right into it, man. I want to get right smack into it. I put this question on Facebook earlier today, Diesel, on our Facebook page, and I want to ask you the question. You, the audience, as well. Do you know that, or maybe I should phrase it like this, do you agree with me, Diesel, that sports fans are the absolute worst at having double standards and only using arguments when it fits their narratives? Am I off on that?
Of course they are. You only want to make yourselves look good. You can't have a nuanced discussion.
Yeah.
You got to just yell at the other guy until they concede. It's kind of like what we do on this show.
It is exactly what we do. But for whatever reason, it's like, I know that people argue in politics all the time, and I get it. But when it comes to sports, there are so many arguments that just aren't valid. There are so many arguments that don't have legs that I just absolutely cannot stand people use, Diesel, on a regular basis. And I want to get to what our audience had to say on our Facebook page in a moment about what is the biggest sports argument that you hate hearing your rival use. Just FYI, you can text in what your argument is. 71307, start your text with the word fan, and away you go. Let us know on the stream what that argument is that you hate the most, that you just cannot stand the most. Diesel, I want to start with this. I have some audio from Isaiah Thomas. And you know that a lot of people around here and in this world that we live in, for whatever reason, just love to hate on LeBron James, right? Well, this audio is fascinating. This is from Isaiah Thomas, who played in the same era as Michael. And I want to play the audio and get your reaction to it because it is quite fascinating.
The Bulls, Jordan, every time you hit him, he was crying. Oh! Going to David Stern's office, going to the commissioner's office, having a meeting about getting hit, getting fouled. You got to change the rules. I'm like, wait a minute. I watched Dr. J get beat up. I watched Magic get beat up. I watched Max get beat up. I watched Bird get beat up. I done got beat up. Everybody get beat up. But wait a minute. Now we got to change the rules because he getting hit. Ow.
So guess what, Diesel? What does everybody clown on LeBron James for?
Crying when he gets hit.
Crying when he gets hit. But you know what? People have forgotten conveniently that apparently, according to Isaiah Thomas, Michael Jordan was just as bad, if not worse, wanting to go to the commissioner, David Stern, and have this fixed. Is this not insane that all of a sudden people forget that this existed, that Michael was the same way? Because what I just said, it doesn't fit their argument.
Isn't it incredible, Cole, how the best of the best in the game always get their way? They always get the extra calls. Sure. They always get the extra protection. You see, Isaiah's saying that MJ did it. We all know that LeBron does it. We all know how many rules were changed just for Tom Brady in the NFL.
True.
I mean, it happens, right? It happens in every sport. Rules get changed for the best of the best. And you can say that it's bad for the game, but isn't it good for the game to see the best players in the game scoring more points, having little advantages that make them better at the game?
Absolutely. So all of a sudden that has become one of my biggest sports arguments, Diesel, that I hate people use. That I hate that when people say, "Oh, well, guess what? LeBron flops." And listen, we hear it on this very station. We have callers who call in and say, I've lost a lot of respect for LeBron because he flops.
I'm one of those people.
Yeah, but I've heard it from our audience as well, though. So my point is, this has all of a sudden become a rough spot for me because guess what? It's convenient for people to use this argument against LeBron. However, let's remind ourselves, if the audio that you just heard from Isaiah Thomas is true, your beloved Michael Jordan was the exact same way.
I am watching, Cole, as we speak, a video of Michael, like a collection of Michael Jordan flops shots where, like, there's an example here I'm watching. It looks like they're playing, I don't know, this looks like maybe the Jazz or something like that. And a guy gets the ball at top of the key, drives in on Jordan, bumps him, not hard at all, but MJ grabs his stomach like, oh my God, I'm hurt. I'm not, he like doubles over, like he's just gotten hit in the gut. And then as soon as the shot is missed and the rebound comes to him, he's back up and running down the court like it never even happened.
Correct. And that's the way most people do. So I ask you, Diesel, as well as our audience, what is the biggest sports argument that you hate hearing your rival use the most? You go first.
My biggest pet peeve, Cole, is the we have nothing to gain and everything to lose by scheduling my school. Like I want to see App State go and play Giants, right? I want them to have the opportunity to get more scalps. App State had one of, if not the greatest upset in sports history, in college football
Probably
history.
The greatest.
We had a win against Texas A&M, win against North Carolina at their house. I want to see my school get those opportunities to go and do that.
Sure.
But every time the conversation comes up, Cole, well, would you schedule them? No, we don't want to schedule them. We don't want to schedule them because there's nothing to gain by playing them. There's nothing to gain by beating a good team like that. We have everything to lose. So we could lose out and hurt our recruiting. If they beat us, they get all this extra publicity. No, if you win the game, if you're prime example, App State had a home and home series with NC State. NC State just backed out of that home and home series, backed out of the game in Boone, but didn't back out of the game in Raleigh. I wonder why. But that is the argument I read, Cole, is we got everything to lose and nothing to gain by playing this team. If they beat us, it's their Super Bowl. I hate that argument. Trust me, players don't think like that.
Yeah.
Players don't use they want to play. This is our Super Bowl. I can guarantee you, Cole, any team that's ever made a major upset in college football, in the NFL, has never once said leading up to the game, this is our Super Bowl. We got to go win this game. Unless it's the Super Bowl.
A couple of our followers on our Facebook page chimed in earlier today when I asked this question. Jason said 5 straight needed a decade ago, talking about South Carolina and Clemson. And Jason goes on to say, and so did any hope for South Carolina football. But every year we hear from December to August how great this team will be. It gets old. I think Jason's a Clemson fan, obviously, there, if you're picking up what I'm laying down.
Well, we have Dewey, who calls in every day. Even as bad as South Carolina has been over the past couple of years, as bad as they were last year, as embarrassing as Shane Beamer has been to that program a few times, not all the time, just a few times.
Sure.
He calls in, Shane Beamer forever. We're going to go 12-0. It's incredible. It's not, and I realize Dewey's doing a bit, right? It's a shtick with Dewey.
Yeah.
But Cole, we hear it all the time from a lot of Gamecock fans who say, oh, this is the year. We're going to win 9 games this year. We're going to win 10 games this year. I understand that you're hopeful going into your season. There's nothing wrong with being hopeful, but you got to be realistic here and understand where you've been and your unlikeliness, your extreme unlikeliness to go from 5 wins to 10 wins in the SEC in one season.
So Justin Cole on our Facebook page answers the question by saying that they're better because of their conference. Then Diddy says he hates when Yankees fans talk about pre-integration titles when they've only won one series in the 21st century.
Ooh, that's a good one.
That is a very good one.
You could apply the same logic to any of the teams that claim a whole bunch of national championships before the AP got involved. Think like Michigan back in the day, who claims a boatload of national championships. And that's back when you could have, newspapers would just declare a national champion. Correct. And it could be 2 or 3 different newspapers all declaring a national champion from their area, and they would just accept it. They would hang a banner, and then fans, it gets internalized, and you say, oh, okay, we were national champions from 1927. It doesn't matter that 6 different newspapers, and it was only the Rockford Gazette that said we were the national champions. We're gonna talk about it as if we won it.
Will in Williamston says anytime Chicken fans say wait till next year. Again, Will, we're guessing, just taking a wild guess here, but guessing you're a Clemson fan. I mean, again, 100% wild guess. But again, Will says anytime Chicken fans say wait till next year. I don't know that, Will, listen, I'm with you. I don't know that a lot of South Carolina fans mean it when they say that. Like, I think that's more of a stick, more of a joke, right? Wait till next year. It's the same thing I say. Dallas Cowboys, that's our saying, right? Wait till next year. That's what the Cowboys fans say. So I hear you. I just don't know that South Carolina fans mean that when they say wait till next year. Do you have any more, Diesel, or is that it for you?
That's one of my biggest ones. That's certainly my biggest one.
I think that when it comes to the biggest sports arguments that you hate hearing your rival use, for me, growing up, I hated South Carolina fans every year, and it hasn't changed. You know this as well as I do, Diesel. Every single year, come about, I don't know, March or April. What month do the schedules come out? Maybe February, maybe a little bit earlier. What is the one thing we hear every single season from South Carolina fans? Like, we don't know. You're in the SEC. Guess what we hear? Man, we have the toughest schedule. We know you play every year in the SEC. We know you play the same conference schedule, pretty much the same one. But every year, it's the same thing. February and March rolls around. We have the toughest schedule, man. Have you seen our schedule? It's so tough. We got Bama and Georgia and Arkansas and the Cowboys and the Patriots. It's just tough, man. It's tough.
It's like you're playing the all-Madden team or something.
Right.
Yeah.
We know your conference hasn't changed. I hate that argument. I hate it.
Yeah, God, South Carolina fans, you got to get over this thing and start saying we need to rise above this terrible schedule. It's like there's a lot of gusto, right? There's a lot of crowing going on when you're saying we got the toughest schedule, which you're saying, I'm really excited for us to go get our brains beat in like 8 times this year because we play in such a tough conference.
Sure. Continue to get your thoughts in, 71307, as well as on the stream. We're live every day on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Diesel, real quick, though, I do want to get to this here in this very first segment. We thought that it might be one of the most historic days ever for the state of South Carolina. Coastal Carolina doing what they do in the postseason. They're up 13-3 on Vandy. Wofford was up on LSU for the majority of the game.
So Madcraft, I can't help but think Madcraft is calling us out a little bit with this comment. He says the narrative that he gets most tired of is Dabo can't win without the portal.
Is it a narrative?
So far, it's proven to be true, Matt. I understand that there's a small sample size. You know, the portal has really only gotten cooking over the last 2 or 3 seasons. I understand that. But in the most recent data point that we have, that would seem to be accurate.
Correcto. And if you are, if you're a Clemson fan and have an issue with a statement where we say Dabo can't win with a portal, well, guess what? It's Dabo's job to do. And this comes from a Clemson fan. It's his job to change the narrative.
It's funny, Cole. We have stayed very consistent with our points that Dabo cannot be as successful as he once was without the portal. Mm-hmm. No one has ever argued exactly why we're wrong on that exact point. The argument always changes to, well, we got great graduation rates.
Yeah.
Well, we don't have guys transferring off of our roster.
GPA.
Yeah, but how are you gonna come back at me about the wins and losses? How are you gonna come back at me on the final ranking in the final AP poll slipping year over year since the transfer portal has gotten so big?
Well,
and it's been used to great effect by other schools that are passing you by. Nobody can argue against that point.
So
they go other places.
What you're saying is you're validating what I led the segment with. And for whatever reason, sports fans are the absolute worst at contradicting themselves, having a double standard, only using arguments when it fits their narratives. If you just tuned in, I played audio from Isaiah Thomas, and Isaiah Thomas said, look, Michael was the king of flopping. Everybody gets on LeBron now. Michael said that he was going to go to the commissioner, David Stern, report it, get it changed, get the rule changed. But we get on LeBron because LeBron flops, but we don't use that same narrative, right? It is what it is. I have a promo that runs on this station. Guess what? We don't use a lot of narratives anywhere else except when it comes to LeBron James.
Yeah, but LeBron James really does flop a lot.
He does, but you know what? There's another. I could probably name 8 other really good NBA players that do as well, but LeBron gets the most attention, obviously.
Yeah, but there's also the opposite of that. It's the what about narrative.
Yeah.
When nobody can, when they refuse to argue the point that you're making, and they just say, well, what about over here? What if we change the argument to over here? Let's argue about that. No, I don't want to argue about that. I want to argue about the point that I brought up, right?
Correct.
You're trying to say what about because you don't have an argument against what I'm trying to tell you.
No, I agree with you. I agree. Before we hit a break, Diesel, some quick scores. Kentucky and Western Michigan. Kentucky had a nice lead, but guess what? This game's gotten hairy. Western Michigan only trails by 2. Kentucky 10-8 in the bottom of the 8th. Coastal Carolina, Diesel, it's not on our TV. I think they're a commercial break, but they have a 10-run lead over Vandy in the 9th. You know what's fascinating about Coastal? You and I just talked about it, 3 or 4 days ago with their coach. Literally 1 week ago from the day said, my vacation starts tomorrow.
He was retiring.
They didn't even think they were getting in. And now they've beat Vandy. You and I talked about this before we came on the air, and we'll get back to it later, Diesel, but people may not realize right now, Coastal and Vandy, yeah, it's a big win for Coastal, but this is huge for Clemson.
Hey, maybe threatening to quit is the best way to motivate your team.
Maybe so.
Could Dave Tepper threaten to quit?
Well, he could certainly try. So what I mean by that is when I say this is great news for Clemson, with Vanderbilt losing, now doesn't have to see Vandy. And then if they do see them, because we assume that Vandy will bounce back, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Vandy would have to beat Clemson twice.
Yeah, especially because they would play High Point next to stave off elimination.
Yeah, assuming Clemson beats High Point.
Assuming Clemson beats High Point, and then they have to beat Clemson twice to get out of that region. Man, that really helps the Tigers, especially for a team that is up and down. Clemson should be able to handle High Point, get past them, and then you are feeling really good about yourselves going forward.
Hey, a couple of upset alerts. Upset watch. Let's watch it. Here we go. Army leads Georgia 5-4 in the bottom of the 6th. Another upset alert that you mentioned. Evansville leads East Carolina 4-1 in the top of the 9th, Diesel.
Wow.
Didn't we talk about East Carolina's regional yesterday?
43 wins with their backs against the wall.
It gets better. Duke trailing UConn 3-1. We love March Madness because of the upsets, but we may see some major upsets today. Obviously, Florida State did go on to defeat Stetson. Virginia defeated Penn. And as we said, unfortunately, LSU did come back and beat Wofford. But I do want to give a quick note real quick before we hit a break, Diesel. Shout out to Wofford making the regional. They still are alive, obviously, but shout out to local product Jack Renwick, who hit a home run later in that game. And I thought what would be the home run that allows the Terriers to go on and win the game. But Jack Renwick, a local product right here from Dorman in Spartanburg County.
Top of the 5th, South Carolina and James Madison are tied 1-1. JMU scored in the top half of the 1st. South Carolina answered in the bottom half of the 3rd. James Madison leads the hit category there 4-3. And we'll have an updated scoreboard for you coming up at 3:45. I can't wait, man. I love this time of year. And this is what I'm terrified of with all these changes with House versus NCAA and scholarship limits and all that stuff. I'm terrified of all of this going away because the big programs can just decide to fund themselves. Hey, Cole, on the other side, let's talk about sports movies. What is a sports movie that inspired you to actually start playing the sport? How about that? And if we have time, we'll carry that a little forward with a different way of looking at sports movies as well. That's on the other side right here on the Fan Upstate, 97.7 FM in Greenville, 97.1 FM in Spartanburg, and all around the world on the free Odyssey app. That is a final in Clemson. Coastal Carolina has beaten Vanderbilt 13
How about
to
it?
3.
Man.
Texter says, "Shots up, fellas." Texter, I take it you're a Coastal Carolina Chanticleer fan. What was your opinion when your baseball coach basically said, "Man, I was retired. I was leaving. I was out of here. I was going to go to the beach."
I didn't know. I didn't know we were going to get in. Well, maybe you should have said that, old Gary.
I know he's a legendary coach, but like, come on, man. You got to be a legendary coach all the way through the very official end of the season. Don't give me this. I thought we sucked and didn't deserve to get in. I send my players home. Texter Cole, this is fantastic. Big Mick texts in and says, "I'm convinced Clemson has an online course for its fans. It teaches them how to argue. If your opponent says topic A is most important, you counter with topic B and vice versa." Yeah. You're saying, "Hey, Clemson, you finished 23rd last year." Yeah, but what about them graduation rates? Graduation rates. Am I right, guys?
I'm so sick of hearing about graduation. You know what I want to, you know what I think when I hear about graduation rates?
I just want to do a header off the top of the press box. Unfortunately, it's too low. It would kill me.
It's still the best audio you've ever played.
I love this guy.
Oh,
I love this guy.
man.
If you weren't listening earlier this week, that was a play-by-play guy who was calling high school girls soccer on an online video stream called the NHSA NFHS network. Yep. He's calling girls high school soccer. Must have been an awful first half, because at halftime somebody left the mic hot on the broadcast and he and his co-host are just bashing the game, saying this game sucks. This game blows. They're kicking it out of bounds. There's no flow to this game. What are they teaching these kids? And then he says,
never happened, by the way.
They're talking about the hot soccer moms in the front row.
Man.
One of the guys saying is like, "Look at the body on that one." As well, "I can't see her legs, but I can feel her attitude from here." Oh, God.
Needless to say, Diesel, our old buddy was banned. Not canned, but
that's
banned.
Right.
Would you rather be canned or banned?
I'd
probably be canned, right?
Yeah, but if you're banned, you're going down as a legend, right? You're going like the world is playing this audio. So I don't know, man. If he could make $1 off every time that audio is going to get played on this show, he'd be okay.
He would be. He would be.
Cole, don't you miss when sports movies were good? Like when you had the inspiring sports movies, and maybe it's just like a product of nostalgia, me thinking back and remembering the sports movies from when I was a kid, man. I loved Rudy.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, Rudy turned me into a Notre Dame fan.
Oh, did it really?
For a little bit.
Just for a
little bit.
I got it.
It's one of those things like, you form this connection with Notre Dame. Like otherwise, I wouldn't have known a whole lot about Notre Dame. I'd have been aware of Notre Dame, but wouldn't have known Notre Dame.
Sure.
That movie made me a Notre Dame football fan for a little while. And I think back of all the sports movies that I watched when I was a kid, Cole, and how great and how inspiring they were.
Yeah.
And a couple of them actually made me go buy the equipment and start playing the sport.
Did it really?
And you got to think, that wasn't, Disney's intention with the Mighty Ducks to get me to go play hockey, but it worked.
Yeah.
It worked, man. 1992, the Mighty Ducks, I'd never seen a hockey movie in my life. I was only 8 years old. I didn't know anything about the Miracle on Ice, so I didn't have real hockey to gravitate to and hold on to. But there was something about that movie when I was a kid, man, and it was a Disney movie. Shocking, because Disney movies suck now. I don't know what's going on with Disney. I mean, their last attempt to make a sports movie was that garbage Clemson football movie that they made a couple of years ago.
Terrible.
I'm not bagging on the player and the situation and the story. I just thought it was a crap movie.
How about White Men Can't Jump? How many white men you think started to play basketball after that movie, right?
How many white dudes do you think braved inner city basketball courts after that movie?
6.
How many of them are still breathing?
Not answering that.
There you go.
There you
go. But Mighty Ducks got me, Cole.
Yeah.
Mighty Ducks 1, I loved it because, but I was like 8 years old when that movie came out. When Mighty Ducks 2 came out and I discovered that street hockey was a thing, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
I don't have to find a hockey rink. I can just go play on the street. I can get some rollerblades. I can get that little hockey puck with the little roller balls in the middle of it. Like, I remember going out and getting a hockey stick and wrapping the blade of the hockey stick with athletic tape because that's what I saw all the hockey players do. And I thought, man, that's so cool. I want to do that. I sucked.
So,
and I never actually played in a game, but I bought the equipment and I would, dribble up and down the street, rollerblade up and down the street with the hockey puck. I loved it.
Angels in the Outfield was the one for me that got me into baseball. When I saw Angels in the Outfield at a young age, I don't remember exactly what age it was, but the inspiration from that movie as a young kid, and if I watched it now, I probably wouldn't have the same inspiration, but for whatever reason, growing up, I cannot recall a movie as a young Cole, right, that had as much inspiration, like just an incredible story of Angels in the Outfield. And you know what? It's one I haven't seen in a long time. That was one of the ones for me. Danny Glover, obviously fantastic, that got me into baseball. I need to go back and watch it, but I loved Angels in the Outfield.
Speaking of baseball movies, man, it's Sandlot. It's got to be Sandlot. Is that movie that inspired a lot of people to, I don't know if that inspired me to go pick up a baseball glove and go play.
It inspired me to go to the pool to find the lifeguard.
You wanted to find Wendy Peppercorn.
Yeah, I was looking for Wendy, not baseball.
It was a great move on behalf of Squints, though, to try to pull that one off, man. Still a legend. Squints getting a kiss from Wendy Peppercorn.
Would you say that Sandlot's above Angels in the Outfield for you?
Oh, God, yeah. There was Sandlot, Rookie of the Year. I think that's the one where the kid broke his shoulder or something like that, and he could then throw the ball 100 miles an hour and became a major league pitcher at 10 years old. Like, those are the movies that really made me want to go out and play baseball. So I ask you, the Tolos, the same question. Was there ever a sports movie that inspired you to actually start playing that sport? You went out and bought some equipment and started playing. That's what I would like to know from you. Now, there's been a couple, Cole, sports movies fell off for a long time. They weren't great.
They did.
But there's been a couple of YouTubers that have convinced me to really take up sports and go play sports. I started playing golf because I found this guy, Rick Shields, on YouTube. Yeah. And I thought, man, somebody's explaining it to me in a way that I can understand. Sure. He's making content that's fun and entertaining. I want to pick up some golf clubs and I want to go out and play. So a YouTuber, not a sports movie, but a YouTuber inspired me to get out and play golf.
Wesley said on the stream, "Remember the Titans" got me pumped up. That's a good one. I don't know that Remember the Titans. Did
it make you go play, Wesley?
It might have. Let's see. Let us know. Let us know, Wesley.
Like, every little kid plays, with their brother, or the kid down the street
for sure
plays football in the front yard.
Yeah.
But, that might, for some people in a certain generation, that might be the sports movie that inspired you to go join the football team.
There's no crying in baseball.
Oh,
that's
man,
a good one.
Jimmy Dugan. He had some great advice, which was avoid the clap. Jimmy Dugan.
Texter says, Bull Durham, the bathtub scene. I ended up playing professional baseball. This comes from the 432. How about that?
Is this Rick? We know that Rick played college baseball at Tennessee.
Yeah, Rick called in the other day, didn't he?
He did.
I don't know if this is Rick or not, but let us know. Put your name. If you don't want to put your name, you just make up a name or whatever it is, your first name. We won't read your last name, but let us know. You're Killing Me Smalls did make the text line, by the way. Also, texter said 100% no questions, Blades of Glory. I'm going to say something that's going to upset you. I think that movie's overrated.
I quit.
He's done. Diesel's done. He walked. I told you it was going to upset you. I warned you. I did give you a warning. I don't know, man.
No, is it Will Ferrell?
Maybe.
Will Ferrell the one
maybe Will Ferrell's the reason.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I'm gonna respond to your sacrilege with more sacrilege.
Okay.
And tell you that most Will Ferrell movies are not good.
I'm not going to push back a ton.
Most of them are not good.
I'm not the biggest Will guy.
There's a few that are great. I feel like every actor's got that little pocket where they can do 2 to 3 to 4 movies tops that are really good. After that, everybody gets tired of their shtick, right?
Sure.
Everybody's seen the jokes. Everybody's seen the delivery. They know the style.
I didn't love Will Ferrell at the Tom Brady roast. To me, it wasn't entertaining.
It was awful.
It really was out of place.
Without a clue who he was.
Yeah.
It didn't work. The jokes weren't good.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't hate Will Ferrell by any means, but for whatever reason, Blades of Glory is not at the top of the list for me. How about one we haven't mentioned yet, and I can't believe we haven't mentioned this, we talked about Michael Jordan earlier in the show.
Mm-hmm.
They tried to redo it, but the guy that we hear every day from 12 to 3 and Jim Rome was in this movie. Do you know that?
Oh, yeah. You're talking about Space Jam.
Yeah.
Space Jam.
Yeah.
Great movie, great cast.
Except for Jim Rome.
So here's a fascinating question, and I think this will get some answers from the Tolos. 71307. Start your text with keyword fan, or you can message in on the stream on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. What was the last great sports movie? We talked about it, man. It's like the 80s and the 90s. They had some great sports movies, and it feels like there were a ton of them, right? There were so many great sports movies in the 80s and 90s.
There was. Early 2000s, too.
Over the last 15 years or so, I mean, part of it's because the comic book movie got so massive, right? The superhero movies got so massive. We didn't get that many sports movies.
So I'll give you one.
So what was the last great sports movie?
I'll tell you what it is, and this is the perfect answer, okay? Not tooting my own horn, but here's your answer. If you haven't seen it, it is fantastic. Hustle. Have you seen Hustle?
That's the Adam Sandler.
Yeah,
that was good.
76ers is very good.
That was good.
And it wasn't cheesy because Adam Sandler, for the most part, isn't cheesy, right?
Would you consider, because you're a gambler a little bit.
I know what you're going to
say. Would you say that Uncut Gems is a sports movie? It's got Kevin Garnett.
Yeah.
There's actual NBA action in the movie.
Yeah. I did like Gran Turismo, but Hustle to me, that was like 2000. I mean, it was not long ago. I don't know if it's still on Netflix anymore, but I really, really enjoyed Hustle.
Great movie. How is Adam Sandler capable of making such great movies like Hustle and Uncut Gems, and then he makes such garbage like Hubie Halloween?
It's true. I've never seen
God, that was so bad. Texter says Moneyball was great. Wesley, are you saying that a movie from 2011, 13 years ago, was the last great sports movie? Like, there's not been a great movie since Moneyball, because Moneyball was incredible, right? People still talk about it. It created a whole new way that we even think and we talk about sports, right? So are you saying that's the last great one? Madcraft says 42, around 2014 was when that came out. That was the Jackie Robinson movie?
Yeah, that's a good one. Very good one. Here's what I can't do. I can't read this text because Fat Paid, I agree with you. Fat Paid says it's got to be radio. I cry every time. And listen, no shame right here. No shame from me. That movie gets me, man. That movie, I don't like watching radio because it gets me. Like, it does
you
something.
Have a personal connection there.
It's so
a local.
God, why do you bring that up, Fat Babe?
He's gonna cry right here. Are you gonna cry?
Texter says Safety's the best sports movie. That's the one, the Clemson one, I did not like.
Safety was not a good movie. That was so cornball and Disney and over the top. I can't believe nobody has said Ford versus Ferrari.
I forget
2019.
About it. Yeah, I forget about it.
That was 5 years ago now, 4.5 years ago. Ford versus Ferrari was a great sports movie.
Texter says Bull Durham, the bathtub scene. I ended up playing professional. Oh, I read that one already. Sorry. The movie, The Greatest Game Ever Played, got me into golf. Michael M. Simpsonville says 432. Any Given Sunday also comes in on the text line as well. That's
the last great sports movie. Any Given Sunday, Al Pacino.
Why? What's your name?
In like the early 2000s. Wow. Jamie Foxx was in that, right? It was Jamie Foxx and Cameron Diaz.
Let's see.
Fat Paid also follows up and says, I haven't watched radio in years because I don't want to ugly cry in front of my girlfriend.
It's true.
We've been together for 4 years and I still don't. Let me click on this to get the rest of the message. Have the heart to do it. Man, We Are Marshall makes me choke up.
We Are Marshall does.
We Are Marshall chokes me up.
I forgot about We Are Marshall.
Mm-hmm.
Texter says American Underdog was fantastic. We'll continue this conversation because there's a ton of text coming in, as there should be, because there are a lot of good sports movies. But real quick, let's go and hear what our Daily Dewey has to say. Dewey, what do you think about the sports movies that made you play a sport?
I watched Space Jam with LeBron James, and I hate LeBron James because of it. And that movie sucked.
Thank you, Dewey.
Thanks, Dewey.
Thanks for popping in.
Yep, that's the Daily Dewey. Hey, we did not mention Airbud.
Dewey.
Airbud from the 432.
Get you into dog sports or get you into basketball?
I don't know. I just loved all the Airbuds. Like I really did.
All the earbuds. How many did they make of those? Like 6?
There was a bunch.
Didn't they have to go like 3 or 4 different dogs to be able to, complete it? The series?
No, I think, not really. I do think it was, I don't know. It was a 6.
So if anybody wants to get into the weeds on Airbud lore, Cole Bryson is your guy.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. Okay. That's
Were
fair.
you not a fan? No, not a fan, Diesel?
I didn't watch it.
No.
I never saw it.
Wow.
Never saw Airbud.
You being a dog guy, I think you'd like it. I really
Maybe.
do. Let's watch it one day. Instead of doing the show, let's just turn it on at 3.
Is there anything cringier than watching like 20-year-old Disney?
Oh.
Not the classics. The classics never age. The Bambi, the Snow White, those never age.
Wesley says
early 2000s Disney, not good.
I might upset you here, Diesel, but Wesley says MVP, most valuable primate, was amazing. I never saw it. Never saw it. Did you?
Was Harambe in that?
I don't know. I'm sorry, Wesley. I apologize to you, but I never saw it. So give me a list, and I'll try to do better. All right, college baseball scoreboard. Who's winning? Who's losing? South Carolina update next. Up on the regionals going on right now, baseball aplenty today across the nation. I absolutely love it. Man, it's a great time to be a sports fan if you're a baseball guy. If you're not a baseball guy, listen, college baseball is fantastic, especially in the postseason. So let's talk about it. Diesel, 8 runs already scored up in Raleigh, South Carolina, James Madison. If I told you that there were already 8 runs scored and you didn't know what the score was, who would you think was winning?
I would think South Carolina's up like 6-2, something like that.
However, we are knotted up at 4. Bottom of the 5th. I'm going to have to turn that one on.
That's working for everybody.
On one of my screens back here. I'm going to have to go ESPN Plus probably right here because that one's going to be good coming down the stretch, Diesel. South Carolina, James Madison, 4-4. I don't know. Again, James Madison, hard to tell like that from a team like that in terms of just how good they are. Georgia did retake the lead. Excuse me. I'm burping over here. Georgia did retake the lead over Army, 7-5. A&M over Grambling, 8-0 in the top of the 7th. Kentucky, top of the 9th. Here's an interesting game, Diesel. Kentucky, Western Michigan is 10-8, right? Top of the 9th. Oh, nope, it just went final. Kentucky won. So Kentucky is winners over Western Michigan.
Got to be quicker than that.
Got to be quicker than that. Indiana leads Southern Miss 8-3. What else? Arkansas on top of Southeast Missouri in the bottom of the 2nd. They're up 3-0. Oregon and San Diego just started a few minutes ago. West Virginia leads Dallas Baptist 3-0. Florida, Nebraska knotted up at 1. Wofford, LSU, Diesel. Man. Wofford was up.
Tough day. Tough second half of that game.
Yes.
For the Terriers. Wow.
They were up. I thought they were going to pull it off. But LSU's, they're a really good team. And it's tough to beat a team like that in 9 innings. You got to play 9. That's the thing. You got to play 9.
Yeah, the Wofford pitching down the stretch just could not hold LSU. Wofford scored 1 in the top of the 8th, gave up 2 in the bottom of the 8th, gave up 1 in the bottom of the 9th. And, of course, that's what pushed the LSU Tigers past the Wofford Terriers.
So, to your point about the bullpen, Diesel, a buddy of mine called me right before LSU took the lead, and he said, Wofford's still winning. And I said, yeah, the only issue is a freshman is coming out of the pen for Wofford. And, as I'm sitting there with a little bit of cheese on that game, I'm thinking to myself, LSU probably will come back and win because LSU's bats, when they get going, they're tough, right? They can be very dynamic offensively. And when you have a freshman coming out of the pen in a regional game, yeah, I think he did have 27 appearances this year, but still, that's tough to hold down LSU for 9 total innings. So tough one for Wofford. But how about, I know it's not a team of yours, Diesel, that you like, but how about those Coastal Carolina Chanticleers?
Man, how wild of a story would that be for Gary Gilmore to say, I'm out of here. I thought our season was over. I was going to start a vacation.
Yeah.
If they make it out of the regional, God, could you imagine what that would be like?
No, I can't, because that means they'd have to beat Clemson.
Yeah, they would have to beat Clemson and make it out of the Clemson regional, advance to the supers. I mean,
it'd be wild.
Would that be a better sports story than them winning it from the Big South Conference, wouldn't it?
Sure. How about this? Duke loses to UConn. So down goes Duke. You and I yesterday were praising Duke, and guess what? They bit us in the butt.
I looked at Duke as a potential
I did too, man.
I did really advance and make some noise out there, but that's not the case.
East Carolina also fell. Evansville 4, East Carolina 1. There are a lot of games coming up at this evening. Let's see. North Carolina, Long Island, and the Chapel Hill Regional at 6 o'clock. Diesel. Wake Forest, VCU at 6. In Greenville, North Carolina. Tennessee, North Kentucky in the Knoxville Regional. That game's at 7. And then also at 7 o'clock, right here in the upstate. You know what I do? I do wish, Diesel, that people could understand that right here in the upstate tonight at 7 o'clock, like if you don't love college baseball, I do wish people could go out and be in attendance for that game tonight, because Clemson High Point tonight at 7 o'clock at Doug Kingsmore, there's very little as electric as playoff college baseball, man. We've seen it with softball. You and I have been watching over the past few days, but tonight it's gonna be a really good, fun crowd at Clemson. And especially if they win and get out of this regional, can you imagine Clemson hosting a super? I mean, that'd be fantastic, man.
Oh, man. I'm just thinking back when there have been opportunities like this to bring games here to the upstate and to be able to experience and be a part of it. I want to go to those games. I want to be there. I don't think I have enough cheddar in my bank account to be able to buy tickets and get into those games. But Cole, like when I'm thinking back, like Furman, when they were making their run through the FCS playoffs, last year and the year before, thinking the opportunities that they could have had to host games and what that atmosphere would have been like to have that happening here in the upstate, man, that's truly, truly special. Hey, Cole, when we come back on the other side of the break, we had a great conversation yesterday with Julian Council of Locked On Panthers. I wanted to take a deeper look at Bryce Young. Okay. One of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL last year. What does a step forward look like for Bryce Young? Not how can he be the best quarterback in the league? Because let's face it, that's not going to happen.
No.
But what does an actual step forward look like for Bryce Young in 2024, his second season in the NFL? We'll get to that next. We'll get to your texts. We'll get to your responses, your replies in the live stream as well. Those of you watching the live stream on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. If you're not yet in the live stream, if you've never joined the live stream, man, it's fantastic. You can chop it up with other Tolos and us live on the air. So do it. Find us on whatever platform you like, Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. Hit the like button, the subscribe button, the follow button, whatever you see on that platform, hit it and join us each and every day on the live stream. This is the Fan Upstate.
Upstate.
Live update in Raleigh, Cole. James Madison has just taken a 5-4 lead on the Gamecocks. Yep.
Well, I can't wait to hear South Carolina fans. Fire everybody.
Hire the coach.
Ball
Fire
boy,
the coach.
water boy, AD. Who else can we fire?
You just can't fire Ray Tanner.
Well, I think there's a contingent of Gamecock fans that would. I mean, this is
I think it's a majority.
Okay, maybe
Not
you're
a vast majority.
Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right.
Cole, we had a great conversation yesterday with Julian Council, host of the Locked On Panthers podcast. If anybody wants to go back and find that conversation, it's on the website, thefanupstate.com. We didn't get a lot of time to talk about Bryce Young specifically in that conversation, though. We talked a lot of everything. We talked Ike Ekwonu. We talked Xavier Legette. We talked a lot of different players.
Jonathan Brooks.
We talked Austin Corbett. We talked a lot of different players, just didn't spend a ton of time on Bryce Young. And maybe it's because we want to stick our heads in the sand and pretend like the Bryce Young experiment is moving along the way that it should. Yeah, you had your bumps, you had your lumps as a rookie. It's the way it's supposed to happen. But you know what? It's going to be better this year. The truth is, Cole, it's not going to be great this year. I don't think he's going to come anywhere close in year two to even what CJ Stroud was with the Texans in year one. Now, certainly the Texans are a little farther along because they bottomed out a couple of years ago. They've had some time to build some things up and get back into a decent enough position where you can draft a quarterback at that point and not get him killed.
And they have a good coach.
That too. Jury's still out, obviously, with Dave Canales in his first year as a head coach for the Carolina Panthers, though he has been a quarterback whisperer. He did great things with Geno Smith. He did great things with Baker Mayfield. Both of those guys, well, one of those guys, Geno Smith at least, sort of fell back down to earth in his first year post Dave Canales. We'll just have to see if the same thing happens to Baker down in Tampa. But Cole, when you look at the stats on Bryce's 2023 rookie season, they ain't good. 2,800 yards, 11 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 62 sacks at a 33.5 QBR. That sucks.
It's not good.
Bryce sucked.
He was not good, and
in no category was he better than 20th in the league.
No, and that's not something Panthers fans want to hear. So if the question is, what does a step forward look like? Well, at least in my mind, at least if I were a Panthers fan, which I'm not, at least in my mind, I would have a little bit of faith and a little bit of hope going into the season, just like Julian said yesterday, that with the additions of guys like Xavier Legette and Jonathan Brooks, maybe Bryce does have a little bit more better of a plethora of weapons, if you will, right, when it comes to being able to spread the ball out. So I would say that there's no way in my mind, Diesel, he can take a step back. I know statistically he can. However, last year, 11 touchdowns, 10 picks. It doesn't seem like it can get worse than 62 stats. So hopefully the only way is up.
Two out hitting really helping out James Madison. They just they just pushed a ground ball through the left-hand side with runners on second and third. They are now up 7-4 on South Carolina.
Not good.
2 runners in scoring position, 2 outs. Man, James Madison has an opportunity right here to break this game wide open. Back to the Bryce Young conversation, though, Cole. It's obviously an easy answer to say more yards, more touchdowns, fewer interceptions, fewer sacks. He does those things, he's taking a step forward. But, I don't think there needs to be a massive statistical jump in any one of these categories for me to see that Bryce Young has improved. Even if he improves in 2 of these categories or 3 of these categories out of these 5 categories, then I see Bryce Young as taking steps in the right direction. You know, if you go from 11 touchdowns to 17 touchdowns, that's him throwing a touchdown or running for a touchdown once in every game.
You know what's interesting is we always look at statistics, and I think statistics are great, especially when you're talking about a quarterback improving. There's nothing wrong with looking at statistics. However, I will say this when it comes to Bryce Young. I think that there has to be a massive effort, Diesel, in making the offense more efficient. And I'm not saying don't worry about the statistics, but when you make the offense more efficient and you have a guy in charge with an offensive mind like Dave Canales, you have to start with, hey, we have to do these little things in order to make this offense more efficient. And then once you do that, guess what? The stats will be there. I wouldn't worry about, like, for Bryce, hey, let's try to have 15 touchdowns this year. I wouldn't worry about any statistical category. I just want the head coach, offensive coordinator, whoever is calling the plays, Diesel, I want that person to make the offense more efficient by doing the little things right, and then the stats will come.
Well, with Bryce, I've got to see him start having efficient connections with multiple wide receivers. That was such a huge problem last year. Number one, we talked about it, the sacks and the offensive line being atrocious. If Bryce can have a good relationship and a good connection with 2 or 3 different wide receivers, Adam Thielen, Deontay Johnson, and Xavier Legette, if he can find those guys fairly regularly, then it's showing that he can now go to multiple targets. Like, he was great throwing the ball to Adam Thielen last year, but everybody knew that you were throwing the ball to Adam Thielen, and that makes it that much harder to get Adam Thielen open, and it makes the windows tighter for you to be able to throw it to a guy like Adam Thielen. I mean, all of it works together, right? If you've got a garbage line, then your run game is not going to be able to pick you up 3 or 4 yards at a time. Well, then you're stuck in obvious passing downs, and they know you're going to Adam Thielen. So what are you going to do? I mean, that's how you take a second sack on a drive or in a series.
I don't hate Deontay Johnson. I do not yet, as of May 31st, for the Carolina Panthers. I don't love Deontay Johnson. I think there's a lot that Deontay Johnson has to prove. The one thing I would say, Diesel, is
home run Gamecocks.
How about that?
They get one back. Now we're talking a 7-5 baseball game.
Kennedy Jones home run, by the way. That helps. The only thing I would say about Deontay Johnson is he was a threat rushing the football a little bit in Pittsburgh. Like, he never had consistent carries, but he is a little bit of a sneaky guy to where he can run the ball and be maybe a guy that you do some sweeps with and design handoffs and jet sweeps and that kind of deal. My only concern is Adam Thielen, to your point, last year, everybody knew he was getting the ball. Is Deontay Johnson enough? Because we talked about Xavier Legette yesterday, and I pushed back a little bit on Legette being the third guy, Diesel. My question is this: is Deontay Johnson enough to separate himself to become the number 2 guy? Is he good enough to take the step that in Pittsburgh, he was there 19, 20, 21, 22, and 23. As far as yards, he had one 1,000-yard season. That was in 2021. He never went above 10 touchdowns in a season. He actually had a league high in fumbles 3 of the 5 years he was there. Deontay Johnson, like, I hear what Julian Council says, but let's not act like Deontay Johnson's locked in as the 2 receiver either, because there's a lot that could happen between now, Diesel, and training camp that Xavier Legette, in my mind, absolutely could jump Johnson.
So to avoid to get better at avoiding the pressure, footwork is going to have to be a huge, huge focus for Bryce Young this year. He's got to be able to scramble and avoid that pressure and be able to get rid of the ball instead of taking sacks. I'm not sure that Bryce Young's body can hold up to another 60-plus sack season.
Short guy.
That's going to be really tough. He's going to have to stop sailing passes. He did that a lot in 2023. Bryce Young was throwing over receivers a lot. So I think a lot of deficiencies can be remedied by getting your footwork right, knowing when to throw the ball away, speeding up your timing, and getting those passes down a little bit. Right?
I'm just a big believer, man, in, like, while Bryce Young wasn't good last year, I'm not arguing that it was 100% the coach's fault, Diesel. But I'm a big believer in, like, you better, if you go out and get who you think's a franchise quarterback, you better have who you think's a franchise head coach, right? And Rule wasn't that guy. The quack from Indianapolis wasn't that guy. I never liked that hire with Frank Wright. I think that Dave Canales is better of the two hires, right? Of the three hires they've made total, I think that Canales may be the better hire. But, man, all I'm saying is I'm a big proponent of if you're going to go out and get who you think's the franchise quarterback, you better, number one, put the pieces around them, which they seem to be doing. But number two, you better have an offensive-minded guy, because a defensive-minded guy does no good if you have a quarterback who's young and looked like 90% of the time last year he was helpless running for his life.
Madcraft says, got to run the ball well. And he says, I could actually see Xavier Legette taking some of those sweet plays. Yeah, I mean, if you can establish him as a threat in sort of I know a sweep is not technically a trick play, but it feels like one, right? It is a misdirection play.
Could be.
If you can get him to a position where there's a threat to run that once or twice a game, then that, of course, opens things up for the other wide receivers in that core. But Cole, one of the best things, if you are a Carolina Panthers fan, one of the things that you can look at is the final 2 weeks of the season. There was definite improvement in back-to-back games.
Yeah.
Week 16, 300 passing yards. That was the first time all season that he had 300 passing yards. It took him until week 16 to achieve that. He had 3 big throws in that game. I mean, again, if you can establish a second wide receiver, especially one that has a little bit of a downfield threat, you can now open up those downfield passes, which in turn opens up the short passes. So,
sure.
I mean, I have high hopes for Bryce Young taking a step forward this year. Is it going to be a leap? No, I don't think he's going to pole vault from where he was in 2023 to somewhere in 2024. But Julian himself said it. He says, he said they had a real good shot to triple their win total in 2024. I'm not going to go that far and say they jump from 2 to 6.
I do like the way you worded it, though. All right, I like that.
It feels good.
Yeah.
I mean, I would feel comfortable in saying, I'd feel very comfortable in putting money on winning 4. It would be a flyer to put money on winning 5. I ain't going 6 though.
So let me tell you this, as far as one more concern goes, while we know that the Panthers got better in the draft, you and I both sat at Dave & Buster's, and I said to you that this is not a one draft fix all.
No,
this is a
long haul.
This is a long haul. This is a rebuild, and I'll tell you here's where I have a concern for Bryce Young, and I hope this doesn't happen. But if injuries happen, which they can, it's a long season. The depth at wide receiver is a massive concern because
they got none.
If you have a guy like Legette or a Thielen go out and all you have left is Deontay Johnson, Jonathan Mingo from Ole Miss, Terrence Marshall Jr., who I don't think is a bad receiver, but their depth is a big question mark at receiver. So, listen, they've got to continue to add some guys. Diesel, I'll tell you, when free agency opens, I'd love to see them add a few guys in free agency as well, 1 or 2 guys. They just have to make a conservative effort to add pieces along the way, like Stephon Gilmore on the defensive side, who yesterday Julian Council said has been hanging around the Charlotte area. Dallas didn't re-sign him. Stephon Gilmore is a question mark right now in terms of where he'll land. But when you're in the Panthers situation, you have to add pieces here and there, even though they're not home run pieces. You have to add just to build and ultimately help your quarterback succeed. It's just going to be, to your point, I see him being better. I don't see him being a lot better.
Well, the free agency market, that's going to have to be done through trades because they don't have any money. I'm looking at their cap space for 2024. They got $6 million in cap space for this year. That is bottom third of the NFL. You look forward, and I'm looking at 2025. It's projected that they'll bump up to about $16 million in cap space, which still ain't that much when you consider teams like the Patriots and the Cardinals are up to around $95 million in cap space. 2026, that's when the Carolina Panthers, again, based on projections as of right now, the Carolina Panthers will actually have some money to spend in the 2026 year. They jump to $141 million. This is a result, Cole, of some really bad deals for the Carolina Panthers. So maybe they can make some moves and sell some players off. Julian said yesterday he doesn't expect that to happen because, I mean, they need all the hands that they've got. But the Carolina Panthers, I think, are going to kind of sit in this, 5 to 8 win range max ceiling wise over the next couple of seasons until they can get all of their drafts. It is imperative for them to hit every single one of these picks. Nobody does that, but it is so crucial for a team trying to dig themselves out of that hole. And especially given their cap situation going forward, is they're going to need a lot of help, and they're going to need Bryce Young to stay healthy. They can't afford, this franchise cannot afford for Bryce Young to end up a bust, because then they're going to be back in this position where they're selling the farm to go get another high draft pick again.
If I've said it once, I've said it a million times, Diesel. The way that the Carolina Panthers need to help Bryce Young. Listen, you can't make him grow anymore. You can't make him – the intangibles, they're there, right? There's not a lot of things you can do at this point. But the Carolina Panthers over the next 3 years need to understand that they can win a lot more games if they will beef up the line, get better protection in terms of pass protection and run protection, and be able to run the football. Because when you can control the line of scrimmage and can control time of possession, Diesel, I tell you what it does. It takes a lot of pressure off that kid throwing the football.
Fat Paid, you're wrong for this. Fat Paid says the Panthers better hope they can play the Gamecocks twice this year, or they're staying in the basement. Fat Paid.
Now, Fat Paid, what the Panthers do to you, man?
That's cruel, man. It's cruel.
It's funny, though, right?
It is funny.
Very, very funny. All right, Shane Connuck, our weekly NASCAR guest. Shane's the best. If you haven't heard him, stick around, turn it on, leave it on. We'll talk NASCAR in the very next segment. Every single Friday at this very time, we bring in Shane Connuck of the Charlotte Observer. Shane, I have to admit, I was excited. I was ready to watch the Coca-Cola 600. However, it seems that the rain dampened the party. Do you feel like what you saw last Sunday was kind of a letdown?
It was. This is the longest race of the NASCAR Cup Series season. This is a crown jewel event. This race awards the most points of any other of the 38 races on this schedule. And we barely got more than half of it with all the weather that we saw this weekend. But it was a really tough decision for both NASCAR and the folks at Charlotte Motor Speedway and Speedway Motorsports, which owns that and several other tracks. Tough call, tough decision. They tried to wait it out, but in the end, the particularly high humidity that day, on top of the fact that we would have been probably racing till 3, 4 in the morning, just wasn't going to happen.
Shane, Charlotte Motor Speedway touted that this year's 600 was the third 600 in a row that had sold out. Now, it certainly helps when you remove about 75,000 seats to sell out a venue like that. But how do you explain, a race like Charlotte and a venue like Charlotte Motor Speedway being able to sell out consistently when we've seen attendance woes at a lot of other places and we see ratings drop off at a lot of other places? Why is it that Charlotte has been able to hold on to that attendance so well?
Charlotte is a really important market for this sport. Like everywhere that NASCAR goes in the Carolinas, a lot of people in North Carolina and parts of Virginia and parts of South Carolina grew up around the sport, grew up around short tracks, grew up around bigger tracks that hosted occasional NASCAR races. And because of that, when NASCAR still in 2024, when you've got Formula One going all over the world, now really tapping into the United States, you've got IndyCar still being what it is, and NASCAR trying to push tapping into new markets to the point that it's racing on the streets of downtown Chicago, going out to California and going to these new markets. It's so important that NASCAR isn't just something that happens once or twice a year in this part of the country. It's important that people in this area, the Carolinas, and again, even Virginia, that kind of part, that those people are likely to be watching NASCAR, or people there are likely to be watching NASCAR every single week. And so it is so important when NASCAR Cup Series, the highest circuit, comes to tracks in that part of the country, that those races attract not only the people who grew up around the sport, and to them going to the Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte Motor Speedway is a crown jewel. It is that big of a race, but also that you have a lot of people who live in Charlotte, who have moved to Charlotte, who have moved to North Carolina, and they did not grow up with any NASCAR, but for the same reasons that there are a lot of people in Charlotte who didn't necessarily grow up with MLS, but go to Charlotte FC games consistently because it's a local thing to do. The Coca-Cola 600 is, in a lot of ways, epitomizes a local thing to do if you're a sports fan in this area, because it is a niche thing. It is a little bit different. And if you're in Charlotte, you grew up in North Carolina, Virginia, you might not be a NASCAR fan at all, but this might be the kind of thing that would bring you out the same way that a baseball game might bring average people out in a lot of other cities where that's something that's always been there. So anytime NASCAR comes to this part of the country, it's going to have a lot of those people who might not go to races all the time. They go into one race a year or one race here and there. Okay, I went to a race, I get it. And you're going to have a lot of people who consistently go, and it's that important of a time on the schedule. So not just having the Coke 600 this past weekend on Motorsports Christmas, as they say, along with the Indy 500 and Monaco Grand Prix Formula One, but having Darlington followed by North Wilkesboro and the All-Star race, followed up to cap it off 3 straight weeks with the Coca-Cola 600 or 373.5 in this year's case. It is really important for NASCAR because this is the sport's home.
Shane, when we had the bubble in the NBA, there was an asterisk, supposedly, beside the Lakers' bubble win. Do you put an asterisk beside Christopher Bell's win on Sunday?
I would not compare those two situations, but because here's the thing about Christopher Bell on Sunday, he was, for the amount of racing that we had, the deserving winner. He led the most laps. Ty Gibbs and William Byron started alongside each other on the front row, also led a lot of laps themselves, each of them, but it was Christopher Bell who worked up through the field, got to the front, and really paced the field for a good part of the race that we saw. I think that knowing how long that race is, a lot would have went down after that. And no, I do not think Christopher Bell necessarily would have ended up winning it, because I don't think that most of the time the guy who's leading in the middle of the second to last stage is the guy who ends up in victory lane. So it's, yes, maybe not an asterisk, but it can't be looked at as a typical race winner. But at the same time, it always is so random who ends up winning every race. So Christopher Bell is absolutely a deserving winner because of the performance he had in the race that we saw, the part of the race that we saw. But no, he probably would not have been the winner had the race gone the full distance.
Shane Connuck of the Charlotte Observer covers NASCAR, joins us here on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Now that we're halfway through the season, Shane, we got some big names that are staring at elimination from the playoff. Who needs a win most this weekend at Gateway?
Yeah, I mean, we have this year really seen a lot of the same winners in a lot of ways. Denny Hamlin has 3 wins. William Byron has 3 wins. Kyle Larson has 2 of them. Christopher Bell has now 2. Those guys are all among your better drivers. Chase Elliott's won a race. Now Brad Keselowski has a win. Tyler Reddick. Daniel Suarez's triumph down in Atlanta in the 3-wide finish in the second race of the year is really the only driver who's won this year that maybe you didn't expect to be a winner at this point in the season. So there are a lot of drivers, even defending series champion Ryan Blaney, who has yet to get a win. Martin Truex Jr. sits second in the standings, has been having a good year as he usually does, but has not gotten to victory lane. I think that we're getting to a point in the season, though, where it's a matter of time before Alex Bowman gets a win. At this point, he is constantly recording top 10 finishes. He's running well just about every race. And you look at other drivers who end up getting victories and then other times can't crack the top 10. And it seems like Alex Bowman, for how consistent he's been, only 8th in the standings right now. He will need a win sometime soon to really be considered among those top Hendrick drivers.
You know, what's interesting to me, Shane, is a guy like Kyle Larson already got a spot. He won 2 of the first 13 races, but that eligibility now in doubt because he missed the Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte Motor Speedway. What do you think NASCAR will do with this situation?
This is an interesting ongoing story right now because it was widely expected that Kyle Larson, once he decided to stay in Indianapolis on Sunday and run in the Indy 500, which was delayed about 4 hours, because of that, he wasn't able to get to Charlotte in time for the start of his Cup Series points-paying race in which he led the standings going in. It felt like he would not, Hendrick Motorsports rather, would not have had him run in the Indy 500 had they not known from NASCAR that they would get a waiver that would allow Kyle Larson to get the points that Justin Allgaier got in coming in 13th place in the Coca-Cola 600 in his car. However, it feels now like because NASCAR has yet to make any stance official on this, NASCAR seemingly has granted waivers for just about everything that's happened before. There have been drivers who have gotten suspended and NASCAR has ended up granting them a waiver. So everybody is kind of just watching on this whole week. And really, as every single day goes by, people think it's really bizarre that NASCAR has yet to make any decision, considering that it feels like Hendrick wouldn't have done it to begin with, A, and B, everybody else has already gotten a waiver who's been in that stance. But my opinion on this is that you are a driver in the NASCAR Cup Series, the highest series, the most competitive circuit in all of motorsports. That is your full-time job. Kyle Larson drives the number 5 car for Hendrick Motorsports, a top team in the top level of motorsports in NASCAR. And when it came down to the reality that even though he was flying back to his Cup races and qualifying, in addition to practicing during the weeks leading up to the Indy 500, making it work when it became clear that if he ran in Indy, that race would end after his Cup Series race started, and he made the decision to stay in Indy. He had said earlier in the week, in previous weeks leading up, that, oh, my priority, I drive for Hendrick Motorsports, is to be in the NASCAR Cup Series. And I'm going to try and fly to North Wilkesboro and fly to Charlotte. But then as soon as the Indy 500 looked like it was going to be impacted by the weather, his tune changed to, oh, I want to be here. My priority is to run in the Indy 500 as a driver. That's all that. And so I think that once you make that decision, you made the decision, and it doesn't feel like a right precedent to set for NASCAR to say, oh, okay, yeah, one of our guys didn't run in the race this week. Oh, okay, we'll give them the points anyway. What if now over these next few months, as NASCAR isn't anywhere in the Carolinas, anywhere in the Southeast, it's going all over, and drivers say, oh, I want to run in a late model race at some point. They can't just do that because what's the precedent? Why is it okay for Kyle Larson to run the Indy 500, but it's not okay for any other driver to just miss a race? It's an interesting situation, and it's a precedent that is going to be set no matter what's decided. And the fact that it's been almost a week now and Kyle Larson still doesn't have the waiver is an interesting situation.
Shane, it's like imagining Patrick Mahomes misses an NFL game for an Arena League game, but he wants his backup Carson Wentz's stats to still count towards his MVP race. Like it's a fascinating scenario to have that come out. Shane, what do you see becoming of the displaced Stewart-Haas racing teams now that we've got the news that operation is going to shut down?
Yeah, that was not what I expected. Stewart-Haas Racing has seemed like it's going the wrong way, seemingly like it just doesn't have a driver like who's going to become the next Kevin Harvick or close to it. And that at worst, Stewart-Haas could downsize to maybe only have 2 or 3 charters in the Cup Series instead of being one of just a couple of teams to have 4 cars at the highest level of the sport. And all it took was early this week, early into this year, Tony Stewart has his other ventures with NHRA right now. Gene Haas also owns a Formula One team. And they decided just a difficult decision, not going to work out. And Stewart-Haas Racing is actually not going to be in the sport anymore, not to mention just the 4 Cup cars, but they have several in the Xfinity Series as well. One of the biggest teams in the sport since 2009 when it started, 69 wins in the Cup Series, multiple championships. The end of a quick era, but also these teams had, other than Hendrick Motorsports, which has been around for 40 years now, most of these teams, Joe Gibbs Racing has only been around since about the 90s and has really been the main team with Toyota that now seems like it's been in the sport for a long time. So my point is just, it seems like these teams have kind of come and gone in some ways more than you'd think, considering that they're these legendary teams. And that now the other part of it is the sport has changed, that before you had a lot of owners and they might own 2 cars or 3 cars. And now you're starting to have teams where you have multiple owners, and you have owners of the status of people like Michael Jordan and Pitbull who have some involvement with a team, and all these different teams that are trying to bring different perspectives to the sport are trying to obtain various charters, whether that's 2 cars, 3 cars, or a lot of the smaller teams, 1 car. Now we'll have 2, now we'll have 3. And this is now allowing us to see teams like 2311 Racing grow into becoming prominent teams in the sport that are doing things differently than they've ever really been done before. And then a team like Stewart-Haas now just already coming out of the sport, and Ford likely to lose a few spots in the Cup Series as a result.
Shane, talk to us about the Worldwide Technology Raceway. Only the 3rd time that the Sprint Cup has been there. It's unique because it obviously has 11-degree banking in turns 1 and 2. The first winner of the Xfinity Series we saw was Elliott Sadler back in 1997, but not a ton of racing here as of late. What makes this unique in your opinion?
It's a unique track. It's going to be one of the only times, like you said, that we see NASCAR go there in general, that part of the country, right outside of St. Louis and Madison, Illinois, where it is. I think that it's another mile and a quarter race that is going to see, again, it's an important point in the season. We're starting the second half at this point. The Coke 600 being that we didn't get what we thought we were going to kind of get last week. We're getting to a point in the season where, like we talked about at the top, some of these drivers really, really need wins. Martin Truex Jr., to have as strong of a year as he's having in the points like he does every year, but to not have a victory, and then to have drivers like Alex Bowman who haven't gotten a victory lane but just continue to put together strong runs, we're getting to a point where I think that's just the most important thing. And Gateway is a unique track that we haven't seen a whole lot of in this year, where mile and a half has kind of seemed similar in a lot of ways in terms of the racing. Super speedways have been a little bit more unpredictable and anything crazy can happen. And we're getting to the point now where certain drivers really need wins, and some of these races are only going to get crazier. So Gateway could be the next one to provide that.
Shane, I want to think big picture here. Is the variety of tracks and locations that seems to be NASCAR's push right now is to expand into different markets? Is that a good thing when you compare it to what you even said earlier in this drop, when we were talking about NASCAR in North Carolina and South Carolina, the attendance being so strong when you bring it back to its traditional roots? I mean, how does NASCAR feel about this? I mean, clearly they love it because they continue to do it, but how do you justify that in your mind of watching the traditional tracks still sell very, very well, yet NASCAR still wants to go into new places?
I think it's tough because I grew up in New Jersey, and I didn't grow up around NASCAR, and it would be really hard for NASCAR to just put a track in a place like that. So that's why they've tried to go into bigger cities like Chicago and go race in their downtown. They try to go to places like California and hype up the Clash before the season, that NASCAR's coming to a place like the LA Coliseum in its non-traditional area. It seems like, I believe firmly, again, coming from a place where I didn't grow up around the sport and I realized how much I know about certain sports from just being exposed to them, that it's very important to get into new markets however you could do it. But at a certain point, you can't lose who you are. And I think that NASCAR has been in a unique situation that it's been trying so hard to get new fans for a long time now that in a lot of ways it stopped doing some things that made it what it is. And so I think that when you have 3 straight weeks in a row that we just had with Darlington going to such an old place like North Wilkesboro, it doesn't get more NASCAR than that. And then to go to new places like even Phoenix, the fact that they've had the championship out in southwest of Phoenix, Arizona, just in the middle of the desert in Avondale, Arizona, and there's this huge racetrack on Jimmy Johnson Way, and they're able to draw thousands and thousands to it in a market as big as Phoenix, even though there's a lot of negative talk about Phoenix continuing to host the championship. There's something to be said about the aspect of the part of the Phoenix community that does consistently since 2020, 2021 come out for the NASCAR championship. And if you're NASCAR, you really, really do need those new fans. But as long as you're keeping yourself, and in some ways, in the places where you are in this area, and having the sport continue to be having teams based out of North Carolina, that's another really important piece, that it can go to California, it can go to Homestead, it can go wherever it goes, but they're always coming back here every week. And then when it gets to be an important time for motorsports, they keep everybody home.
Shane, great stuff as always, man. We appreciate you hopping on with us and talking a little NASCAR. Hope you have a great weekend, man.
You guys as well. Great talking with you guys. A lot of good college baseball happening, a lot of sports happening. It's an exciting time as we roll into June.
Heck yeah, man. Always appreciate you. That's Shane Connuck of the Charlotte Observer. Diesel always does a fantastic job.
Yeah. I mean, I love bringing Shane on because Shane may be the reason why I actually turn the race on and watch it on Sunday. I watched a bit of that 600. I got bored. I'm not going to lie. I got bored midway through the second leg there. and I turned it off. Didn't even finish. And obviously, what happened with the rain delay and the cancellation certainly didn't help NASCAR when it really needed another big ratings hit. When we come back, Cole, Shane just mentioned it. Thank you. I need to send him a thank you for the segue because there's so much college baseball happening right now. The Gamecocks are still trailing, but they are trading some blows, trying to get back in this game in the late innings against James Madison. We'll get you caught up with everything going on across the country in the college baseball regionals next. Well, it looks like the South Carolina Gamecocks are going to need 2 in the bottom of the 9th to push this thing to extra innings. Current score 7-5. Top of the 9th. James Madison coming to the plate. South Carolina is in a tough spot in Raleigh. Bryant and NC State both sitting there waiting for their 7:00 first pitch. But Cole, we take a look around college baseball and the scores, and it's wild just how many of the smaller programs are doing well. early at this point, getting wins against bigger programs. Southeast Missouri State, 2 runs back on Arkansas, top of the 5th. Oregon up 3-1 on San Diego. West Virginia 4-0 over Dallas Baptist. Florida 3, Nebraska 1, UC Irvine 3, Nichols 1. Those are the games that are active at the moment. Kentucky barely squeaks by Western Michigan 10-8. Texas A&M handles Grambling 8-0. Georgia struggled with Army, but did ultimately get the win 8-7. Florida State 7, Stetson 2. Virginia 4, Penn 2. Evansville gets it done in the Greenville Regional, knocks off the 1 seed East Carolina 4-1 on 6 hits to East Carolina's 5. Wofford 3, LSU 4. Coastal Carolina, this is the surprise, man. The team that a lot of people didn't think deserved to be here. 13-3 win over Vanderbilt. UConn 4-1 win over Duke. And Indiana handles Southern Miss 10-4. So those are your live scores. Coming up a little bit later on this evening, North Carolina takes on Long Island at 6. Wake Forest VCU at 6. Texas Louisiana at 6. UCF Alabama at 6. Move up to the 7 o'clock games. You've got Northern Kentucky, Tennessee, High Point, Clemson, Oral Roberts, Oklahoma, Bryant, NC State, Niagara, Oklahoma State, Georgia Tech, UNC Wilmington, St. John's, Mississippi State, Illinois, Indiana State, Kansas State, Louisiana Tech, Grand Canyon, Arizona, Fresno State, UC Santa Barbara, Tulane, Oregon State.
Shane Barrett says, "What's up, boys?" in the chat. Shane, what's up, man?
Hey,
Shane. You're back. You're off of your
probation.
Your suspension. You're good now, man. You sat in the corner long enough, so you are a free man today. Listen, you're asking us what's up. The question is, what's up with you? How do you feel being let out of wire-to-wire jail, right? You have Facebook jail, but now you have wire-to-wire jail, and Shane was thrown in the penitentiary yesterday for calling in and dropping a little S-bomb, so we had to bleep him out. So he's free today. He's a free man. Good to have you in the stream there, old Shane.
Shane, call us up. Got to get to some of these daily wires really quickly, too, Cole, before we head off to break. The Braves lost yesterday to the Nationals 3-1. Dallas defeated Minnesota 124-103 to advance to the NBA Finals versus the Celtics. That game was never really competitive.
Dallas came out last night on fire.
They held that 15 to 25 point lead almost the entire game. Charles Barkley had a lot to say about Minnesota and the effort that they had there in that game. Game 1 of the finals will be Thursday at 8:30. French authorities raised terrorism charges against an 18-year-old accused of plotting to target spectators attending soccer games at the upcoming Paris Olympics.
Wow.
Those games are set to start in July. Gable Stevenson, an Olympic gold medalist and one of the most dominant college wrestlers in NCAA history, is signing with the Bills per his agent, Carter Chow. Stevenson will now try to join Bob Hayes as the only athlete to win a Super Bowl ring and an Olympic gold medal.
Man? Yeah. That's insane.
I'm sure he played football at a younger age.
Yeah, college.
Man, getting back into it after this amount of time, and that is exceptional.
That is fantastic. I hope it happens. Congratulations to Gable Stevenson, signed by the Bills. All right, as we do every single day at 5 o'clock, coming your way, it's time to put them up. It's time to fight. Go ahead and get that text line ready because you decide who wins. It is the bottom of the ninth. If you're going to do something, you better do it now. If you're the Gamecocks, no outs. The inning just started. The Gamecocks are down by 2. James Madison 7, South Carolina 5. We know that South Carolina fans don't like Mark Kingston and Diesel. Just a few days ago, we had a topic where I asked the question, what would need to change? You remember that topic? Well, if you do remember, we're getting close because this is not good what's going on right now for the South Carolina Gamecocks. I'm not saying it's time yet, but here's a hard hit up the middle, and the Gamecocks are going to get a runner on, so we'll see.
It helps when James Madison's shortstop boots one that should have been a routine ground ball. And
take them any way you can get them, right?
Oh, South Carolina has just hit into a double play.
Oh,
so they're down to their final out against James Madison.
See, now you're ahead of me. How'd that happen so quickly?
I hit the refresh button.
Man. Well, South Carolina's going to be in the loser's side of things, if you will. Let's see if they can
wait, I might be wrong about this.
What do you mean?
Never mind.
You're right?
No, wait.
What?
A runner on first? How did this happen?
So mine's showing.
Excuse me. No, they just the crew handling the graphics didn't take the little yellow square off of first base.
Gotcha.
I'm watching the play. The runner at first base was clearly out. Why is there still did they just automatically walk somebody without him coming to the plate?
James Madison, man, they are about to defeat the South Carolina Gamecocks, and that is going to have fans ready to fight. Speaking of fight, it's time for what we do every single day at 5 o'clock. If you do not know, if you have not heard, this is the 5 o'clock fight. Diesel and I have to disagree on 3 topics every single day. When we disagree, it leaves the question, who wins and who loses? That's where you come into play. You, the Tolo, that stands for turn it on, leave it on. You decide who wins. 71307 is the text line. Start your text with the word fan, and away you go. We're also live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube every single day. And with that being said, Diesel, it's time for... I like this one. You put this one on the rundown, and I cannot wait to tell you you're wrong. You ready? Gas station food. Eat it or leave it.
You know, it's wild. After all of these gas stations over the past 5 years or so have all amped up their food situations, right? Like it's Buc-ee's that does the barbecue.
Yeah.
Spinks is known for their chicken.
It's good, by the
QT
way.
is known for their pizza. I don't care, man. Leave it all behind. I don't eat that stuff. Like most of it, Cole, just comes out of a box and goes into a heater, like a microwave or a deep fryer. It's not good food.
Diesel.
I don't care what you say. It's probably been sitting there for hours since by the time you walk into the store to get it. It always gives you the bubble guts right after you eat it. I try to stay away from it as much as I can.
Listen, I love gas station food. Now, when I say I love gas station food, I don't mean I go across the street here on Woodruff Road over to the other little sit-go and get a roller that's been there for 13 hours. I mean the good gas stations, Diesel, the QTs, the Buc-ee's. Sign me up every day of the week. Are you kidding me?
South Carolina has just hit a 2-out, 2-run dinger to tie it up with James Madison. And at this point, at least force extra innings.
They might walk it off.
God, I love college baseball.
This is fantastic.
God, I love college baseball.
We don't normally interrupt the 5 o'clock fight, but
No.
This is fan-freaking-tastic. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Was it Cole Messina again? Don't tell me it was Cole Messina. Guess what? It was Cole Messina.
Cole Messina goes yard with 2
Wow!
outs and a runner on first to tie up the game.
Oh, my word. Forget the fight. Screw the fight. Throw the fight in the trash can. The Gamecock fans there are going nuts. It's 7-7, bottom of the ninth. Wow.
Shane Barrett said it, though. He says James Madison is having an incredible run in sports. Yeah, they have hit their stride at every sport as they've come up. They were excellent in football last year. They were excellent in men's basketball this year. They're excellent in baseball this year. It drives me nuts, man. They are a new rival of my school, but you got to tip your hat.
So if you're asking
great things,
if you're asking why I'm excited that South Carolina's winning, well, I'll tell you, I want South Carolina baseball to be as good as they can be, because this show's no good when everybody stinks, okay? I know I'm not a South Carolina Gamecock fan.
The truth is, we're probably going to stop talking college baseball if South Carolina and Clemson are both eliminated in the regionals.
We don't want that.
No.
We don't want that.
We need content.
So let us know, round one, who wins? Diesel says no to gas station food. I said, are you kidding me? I love it. The pizza at the QTs. I like the little burritos. Anything there. You said it. Spinks has good chicken. Buc-ee's. Who doesn't love Buc-ee's brisket? Are you kidding me?
I've never been to a Buc-ee's.
Really? We'll have to go on a road trip. How about Monday?
I don't do it because nobody will shut up about Buc-ee's.
Can we take wire to wire on the road and do it live going down the road? We'll go to Buc-ee's and back. It'll take 4 hours, right?
Let's do it.
All right. It is time for Diesel. You and your wife are going to a ball game. I'm going to a ball game. Whether it's with friends on a date, whatever, you name it, going to a ball game. The question is for round two, do you eat before, or do you say no, we're going to eat at the game?
Ooh. We almost always, Cole, eat at the ball game.
Okay.
We almost always get a hot dog. It's hot dogs and peanuts. All those things, those are ball game staples. I mean, even if I'm not hungry, I'm probably still going to get a hot dog at the ball game. It's just part of the tradition. It's part of what you do. So I say eat at the ball game.
Listen,
now, if we're talking baseball, I ain't doing that at a Panthers game because I'm not giving Dave Tepper any more money, and I don't go to Hornets games, so I don't even have the opportunity.
I want to be very clear. I have no despise or distaste or hatred toward ballpark food. However, I would rather have a quality meal and pay for what I get beforehand. That way I don't have to overpay at the game. Similar situation to round one. It's being heated up, right? It's probably frozen. However, at a gas station, I can get it for super cheap. At a ball game, they rate me for it, right? It's ridiculous how much it costs at a ball game. So I'm going eat before. But listen, let's be honest, Diesel. Nobody's opposed to some peanuts at the game, right? Nobody's opposed to that.
My wife gets nuts. She gets nuts. She gets mad at me, Cole, if I break open the peanut shells and drop them on the ground.
Why?
She's like, aren't you going to clean those up? I'm like, no,
it's a baseball game.
It's a baseball game. It's supposed to have baseball or peanut shells all over the ground. No, I'm not going to have an extra cup just for that.
Madcraft. You say, I want a quality meal, but say gas station food is great. You miss what I said. If I'm going to eat cheap food, ballpark food, or gas station food, I don't want to pay a lot for it. I'll pay it. I'll eat it. I'll pay for it, but I don't want to pay $15 for a frozen chicken sandwich. You misheard me. But he did say Diesel round two. We'll get the rest of the results coming in, but we have one more round in case anyone is on the fence. Diesel, you asked this question. Mm-hmm. I love it because it happens to me every day. I find myself asking, what do I do here? You ask, when you're on the highway, do you drive in the left lane? Are you a left lane driver, or do you always beep, beep, move over? You answer.
I move over. When I'm not driving faster than the traffic in the right lane, which I usually am. You know, I'm a 8 to 9 miles an hour over the speed limit in the left lane kind of guy. I don't give a rip if there's a Camaro or something behind me that wants to go 25 over. That's your job to go around me. I'm already speeding by 10 miles an hour. It's not my responsibility to drive faster for you. If you want to drive like that, you go around me. But the truth is, Cole, I try to get out of people's way. I try to be cool. But I also always have my eye on the rearview mirror, and I'm saying, all right, should I go now? There's a car coming up. Should I go ahead and get around this guy now? And also I drive a slow vehicle, so it's hard for me to keep up in the passing lane very often.
Well, I want to let you know that even though you and I disagree on this segment, on this topic rather, you're doing the right thing. I'm not. Diesel, this is not good to say on the air, but I'm going to say it anyways. 90% of the time I'm speeding, okay? If you're a highway patrolman out there, please close your ears right now. Do not listen to what I'm saying, but I do have a bad habit, and my bad habit is speeding. Therefore, Diesel, I can go in the left lane and hammer down, right? It's not good.
Yeah, look for the guy in the blue Mustang. Pull him over.
Don't do that. Don't pull me over. No, I don't drive a blue Mustang. Well, actually, yeah, I do. Yeah, I do.
Yeah, you missed
I messed it up. The blue Mustang with the stripe in the middle. Is that right? Yeah, pull him over. Not me.
It's the one that says FU blue on the license plate. Pull that guy over.
All right, let us know who wins each round. Quick recap. Round 1, gas station food, eat it or leave it. Diesel says leave it. I say eat it. Round 2, going to a ball game. Do you eat before or eat there? I say before. Diesel says there. Round 3, final round. If you're on the highway, do you stay in the left lane or do you move over like you should? Let us know who wins. 71307. If you want to suggest a fight, you can do so. You know, I don't know how you have any money left, Diesel. All you do is pay off the Tolos every day to say you win.
There's no money involved. I send them nudes.
Well, okay. Case closed. I'm not seeing any good news here. I'm not seeing any Cole wins. So
Jacob in Spartanburg says, I live on roller grill dogs from QT during the week. I feel like Tim McGraw eating a 99-cent heart attack.
Jacob, I'm with you. I do like the rollers. I do like the egg rolls from QT. Madcraft pointed out the egg rolls, and that was the only round that Madcraft gave me. Come on.
Do you think they make those egg rolls fresh in the store, Cole?
You don't think there's a I'm not going to say what. Yes, no, they don't make them. I'm not going to say what I was going to say, but no, they don't make them.
Texter says, pro tip, turn a QT grilled cheese sandwich into a bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich.
Wait a minute.
At the little kiosk. Thank me later.
Turn a QT.
I guess they sell grilled cheese sandwiches.
Ah.
How do you accomplish this?
You just like add it on, like add bacon, egg, and cheese. Is that right?
I guess so. G says Diesel wins round 3. Cole wins round 1 and 2.
Come on.
And then Texter says clean sweep goes to Diesel.
Oh.
Diesel round 1, food poisoning waiting to happen. Round 2, I hate ballpark prices, but when in Rome, you got to eat at the park.
True.
Let's see if there's a continuation of this text message. It says Diesel round 3, move the hell over. This comes from Wyatt.
Wyatt, I don't need to move over because I'm the one going fast. I do, Diesel. I shouldn't admit this on air, but I do have bad tendencies on like interstate.
So if you're going 10 over, if you are in the passing lane and you are passing, but you're not like hauling ass, you're not doing 90 at a 65, but you see a car coming up behind you, so you're doing 75 at a 65, and you're slowly passing the cars in the lane beside you, but you see somebody coming up behind you who really wants to go. What do you do then?
That's a fantastic question.
Do you stay in the left lane and block it up? Be like, dude, I am already speeding. That's my policy.
Well,
I am already speeding. I don't have to speed more for you.
That's a great question. The answer would be depends what kind of mood I'm in.
There you go.
If I'm in a great mood, I might get over. If I'm not in such a good mood, Diesel, guess what? I'm staying right there, and he's going to have to wait his turn, right?
Shane on the stream wants you to know, Cole, that he can be bought. How much you talking here?
Shane says he can be bought. Well, I'll remember that. If I ever if this thing really gets bad and Diesel just continues to win, Shane, I'll keep that in mind, buddy.
South Carolina blanks James Madison in the top of the 10th. We are now in the bottom of the 10th.
Let's go.
No outs, runner on first. South Carolina has a chance to walk it off and get out of this situation.
This place will go nuts, man, if they walk it off, this Raleigh regional site. So listen, to reset the scene for those that don't know, South Carolina was trailing 7-5. Cole Messina gets up there with 1 out left, Diesel, and hits
bottom of the ninth.
Yeah, bottom of the ninth, hits a 2-run bomb, ties it up. Now there's 1 out on my screen. And I don't know how far behind I am, but 1 out is what's showing on my screen. South Carolina does have a runner on. He does have a runner on. Let's see. Diesel, I think for the most part, I hate to admit this, but I think you did win the 5 o'clock fight. Here's a great question. Baseball question. Bottom of the 10th, Diesel, 1 runner on, 1 out. Do you play small ball, sacrifice the second out to get a runner in scoring position, or do you swing away?
It depends on who you've got your next hitter up. I mean, if you're not confident in your next hitter up, I think you stay where you are.
Oh, that's a good question.
If you are confident in the hitter who is on deck,
there
and
it is.
They just try to sacrifice squeeze, and the throw
has
gone wild.
No.
The throw has gone wild into right field.
Oh.
Runners advance second and third for the South Carolina Gamecocks with 1 out.
No.
Wow.
James Madison just pooped their pants.
Bunt to the pitcher.
Oh.
And he throws it over to the tarp.
Oh, my word. That could have been the second out, right?
The real MVP is the grounds crew who have painted this.
They're showing a replay. Oh, yeah. That's phenomenal, by the way, isn't it?
Wow.
It was a bad throw by the pitcher. You're right. And
Bad
the first
throw.
baseman leans. There's a great replay of it now.
They practice this every single day. They practice it every day.
Oh, my. South Carolina, 1 out. Runners on second, third. Now there's a meeting at the mound. Real quick text from the 616. Right lanes for the speed limit. Middle lane for 10 over. Left lane for everything above. Move over. John L. Diesel, is John not 100% correct there? If there are 3 lanes?
No, right lane is for entering and exiting the highway. Middle lane is for the speed limit. Left lane is for 10 over. And people wanting to get around.
I don't know.
My biggest problem, Cole, is when truckers take over the left lane. They do it.
I thought that was against the law.
Not when it's like, not when they're just like, not when there's a law that says all trucks must be left lane or all trucks must be right lane, but they'll just do it. And then they'll sit there and they'll ride side by side for a couple of miles in a row. And it's infuriating because, we live in a hilly area. It's difficult for these trucks to get up to speed and hold speed. And so they're speeding up and slowing down. Speeding up and slowing down. And speeding up and slowing down.
True.
Texter says, and that's why you bunt. It puts pressure on the defense to execute. Well,
this is fantastic.
It worked this time. See, Texter, what would you have been saying if it didn't work? How stupid are you to bunt in that situation? See, what do we start the show talking about, Cole? Double standards, a play like that. How many plays have we seen get called that you say, if it works, it's brilliant. If it doesn't work, it's idiotic.
A lot.
It happens a lot.
Pete Carroll's on the phone line, by the way. Pete Carroll wants a word there. Is that bad? I mean, come on.
All right. James Madison pitching here. Whew, man, this is nerve-wracking.
This is fantastic.
And he throws it inside, almost catches the batter on the left elbow.
If that batter Diesel would have had his jersey untucked a little more, I think it would have got him.
Cole, let's get out to break here since we're a couple of minutes over. We'll have an update for you on this when we come back on the other side. But when we do come back, Cole, for those of you gamers in the audience, EA Sports has unveiled some in-game play for the new college football 2025 game. And some of these modes, man, they are getting intense. You're going to need a War and Peace size manual to learn how to play this game. All that coming up next, right here on the Fan Upstate.
Oh, that was close.
And that'll do it. A walk-off sack fly for the South Carolina Gamecocks pushes them past James Madison. Final score 8-7. Tippett hits the sack fly to center. Brewer scores. Gamecocks get the dub.
Can you believe that? Can you believe it?
Incredible
Did
comeback.
Mark Kingston need that or what?
I'm telling, are Mark Kingston and Brad Brownell twins? They don't look alike. Are they fraternal twins? Because they both have the same amount of luck when they absolutely have to have it.
Unreal, man.
Unbelievable. Texter, the one who said earlier, that's why you bunt. It puts pressure on the defense to execute. He says, I'm in favor of bunting. It's a lost.
Timing and executing a bunt correctly can make all the difference, especially in a close game. But you said it right there. It's a lost art. It's not practiced as much. It's not used as much. And if you can do it effectively, man, you can knock the other team on their butts when they don't expect it.
Man.
Cole, we are all greatly anticipating the new EA College Football 25 game. We got the trailer. What was that, like 2 weeks ago? We got the trailer. A lot of it was cut footage, as in it's not actual gameplay, but it is they spend some extra time making it look extra nice, and they send it out, and people get excited, and then they play the game. They're like, oh, it doesn't look like this. Well, we finally got some more in-game play from EA Sports today. They've unveiled, Cole, a whole line of systems and modes and things that you have to look out for in this game that I fear, Cole, is going to make this game so complex that there's going to be a lot of players who just say, you know what? Nah, not into it. I remember the last EA college football game I had might have been like 2007, 2006.
Mm-hmm.
It was the one that had Reggie Bush on the cover. I don't remember what year that was. It was a PS2, but the game was fairly simple at the time. But man, this new game looks complex.
For those on the stream, here is what Cade Klubnik looks like in the new NCAA video game. And man, no comment. You decide on the stream. Let me position this correctly. There
that does not look a single thing like Cade Klubnik.
What do you mean? I thought he had cornrows. Does Cade not have cornrows in real life? Look at that.
When did Cade get a high top?
Yeah, and literally
high top fade.
Yeah, look at the fade.
I was so watching this new footage that they released today. I think the faces look like crap.
That is bad.
I was expecting so much more with the faces, like in helmet, or whether it's in whether it's in the menus when you're looking at a player's face in the menus.
Yeah, I
am sorely disappointed in how these players look.
You want to hear
this new game.
His 3 traits?
Mm-hmm.
This is good. You tell me.
If it tells me leadership and decision making, I'm not going to buy it.
GPA and graduation rates.
Graduation rates, yeah.
NCAA video game says the first one for Cade Klubnik, dot. Standing in the pocket, moderate accuracy boost when throwing to open receivers. Well, duh. I mean, when they're open, they better be a dot. The second one, Diesel, step up. Moderately improved accuracy when stepping up into the pocket and not under pressure. Third one, sleight of hand. Slightly increased ability to hold defenders using play action on first down or less than 3 to gain. Shout out to Madcraft for sending me that.
So they've unveiled, like I said, a whole new system of gameplay and things that you have to look out for, Cole. So we're going to go through a couple of these things that I found really, really interesting. They've got a new wear and tear system, which means that every snap matters. Every hit that your players take builds up injuries within those players.
Ooh.
So if your quarterback, Cole, for example, gets tackled by his non-throwing shoulder, then he'll start to get like if you saw an image of the body, you would see that shoulder starting to turn a little bit red.
Is that like a wrestling feature that we're like, I could be wrong,
and these things,
but I think it is.
Yeah, these things add up during the game, Cole.
Yeah,
to where the point, like if this happens again and again and again, then your player is going to have to come out of the game, right? Now, does this mean Here's one thing that I'm afraid of. How are they going to display this to me? Am I going to have to pause every single snap, go into the menu, go down to roster, go to the player, and see, okay, my right tackle has a sore thumb. I got to take him out of the game. Like, are they going to do it this way? Or are they going to let you auto manage the rosters so that as your running back's leg becomes a more and more of a problem, that he will be automatically substituted for your RB2?
I hope it's not an auto sub. I would probably guess that it's a feature that appears and then disappears, that shows like the body part, green, yellow, or red, maybe, and then goes away. That
maybe
way
there'll be like a little. I did see at one point where they had a player that looked like he had, like a triangle, like a yield sign or a caution sign that was red with a little exclamation point in it. So maybe that's trying to tell me that my running back, there's something important going on with my running back. I need to go into the menu and think about swapping that guy or taking that guy out. So like that happens throughout the game and throughout the season. So it can become cumulative down the stretch to where you're going to have to manage your roster and your lineup week in and week out to get around some of these injuries.
I wonder if that's optional though. Like, can you turn that setting off, the wear and tear setting? Because I don't know that I always want it.
Yeah. I mean, I remember playing, like I said, whatever college football game that was, 2004, 5, 6, whatever it was, it would just auto substitute players for me. You know what? I just want to play the game.
I don't want to auto sub though.
Yeah, but I just want to play I understand that players are going to get injured and players need to come out of the game on occasion when they get tired. And I think even that game that I had way back then had like a little exhaustion meter. So you couldn't run it to the same running back over and over and over again and cheat. You couldn't do that.
And cheat.
But this system feels, Cole, like I'm going to have to stop playing the game a lot to manage my roster from down to down. And I don't know that I like that. I don't know that I like where that's going.
That wouldn't be a good look.
They are including, Cole, mental and physical player abilities. So if you've got great physical abilities, you can weather the hits more. So you have less wear and tear. You can bounce off tackles more. And if you've got great mental abilities, they can handle pressure. Now, this is really fascinating what they showed in this new trailer for the game, Cole. They showed they depicted a scene where Tennessee was on the road at Georgia.
Okay.
The crowd is going wild. There's a meter in the top right corner of the screen that shows, from quiet to loud, how loud. And that's nothing new. That's been in the game for a while. But Cole, the difference is now when you try to back up and look at your route tree and decide, all right, am I going to throw to square? Am I going to throw to circle, triangle, whatever it is? Instead of very easily and clearly seeing the routes, you see squiggly lines. That's what's going to be really interesting. So you as a quarterback can't say, oh, I know for a fact that my wide receiver is going to run 10 yards and go to the post, right? You can't see that because the line's a little bit squiggly. He may not run the best route. You may not be super confident in what that receiver's route is going to be.
That's one I don't know that without playing it, again, I don't want to judge it good or bad yet, but I don't know that I love that. I don't know that I'm all in on that. So I want to know where my routes are.
It gives you a sense of where the routes are.
Yeah.
But there's no guarantee that if you're talking about the wide receiver and he's a rookie, for example, and he's playing on the road at Georgia for the first time, there's no guarantee that receiver is going to actually go 10 yards and then hit the post. He may go 8 yards. He may go 12 yards.
Well, if he don't go 10 yards, he's getting cut. I'm taking him off the freaking roster.
They did talk about, and they showed Cade Klubnik a lot in this particular scene. You can essentially custom or alter the mechanics of your quarterback in a situation by situation basis based on how long you press the buttons to make the throw. Like there's been times when the you long press and it's going to throw the ball really hard, like a hard pass.
Yeah.
Or if you just barely tap it, it's going to have some touch, a little lob on it.
Sure.
But this is different, Cole. This is going to change the mechanics from like an over the top throw to a sidearm throw to quick throws. It's going to be really, really complex.
So
Cole,
I have a fear.
I'm just wondering if this is going to mess with my enjoyment of the game. It's going to get so complex that it's not fun. And that was one of the reasons why I never got that much into Madden, because they made Madden so complex.
Well, hearing you say all of this information, I do have a little bit of a fear that this game could become a little bit too, I don't want to say like too involved. I don't want to, when I sit down to play this game, I don't want to have to worry about my wide receiver's left shoulder falling off and whether or not my quarterback is going to be able to depict because of his mental capability if a guy is running a post it's supposed to be an 8-yard post or a 10-yard break. Okay, I don't want all that. I want to play the game. I want to enjoy it. However, I'm not judging it. I'm just telling you from what I hear, a lot of information that you read, it kind of worries me. I'll be honest with you.
And that one particular scene that I was talking about with Tennessee playing on the road at Georgia, man, they made Nico Liamalieva look bad. Like, he was throwing balls short. He was throwing balls out of the flat to nobody. I mean, I'm a little nervous if you've got a freshman quarterback. I mean, and these rosters are going to be operating in real time, right?
Yeah.
As transfers happen, as players go down. Madcraft texts in and says, or messages in on the stream, says, one thing I learned from that video is that I'm going to be awful at this.
That's
game.
what I don't want, man. I don't want this thing to be so complicated. I feel like I'm playing some kind of like expert level video game.
This feels so far from what I've seen. I have no doubt that the visuals and the complexity of the amount of cut scenes that they made and the stadiums that they've built and all that stuff, I have no doubt that those are going to be gorgeous. They're going to be fun to see, and you're going to see your stadium in more detail than you've ever seen your stadium in a video game before. But I feel like this game is going to be a game designed specifically for the hardcore gamers who have been playing Madden games for a long time and can pick it right back up and go. But for somebody, for example, like me, who hasn't bought a new console since a PS3 and clearly hasn't played Madden since then and hasn't played any college football games in going on 15 years, I don't think this game is going to be for me. I think I'm going to pick it up and hate it.
JW wants to chime in. 844 fan phone. It's the Renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone line. It's 844-326-3663. JW, what's up, man?
Hey, man, how y'all guys doing today?
Good, man.
Hey, I can't wait for this new game to drop. And all the features you guys talking about with the squiggly lines and stuff in there, I don't know if y'all still got it, but I still play mine. NCAA 2014, the last game that they made with Denard Robinson or shoeless quarterback dude from shoelaceless dude quarterback from Michigan.
Yeah.
All that stuff is still inside. Is still in that old game because I went out and bought a PS3 3-4 years ago just to play the NCAA game because it was the last one. I agree, like you said, man. The Madden stuff, I couldn't get too much into it. I just love the old, just the authenticness of college.
I do too, man. I do too. Listen, I feel the same way. I want it to be fun. I want it to be intricate, but I don't want it to be too complicated, right?
Yeah, my favorite part was the dynasty thing, the whole recruiting and trying to build up, building up South Carolina back into a 5-star program, back to the top 10, top 5 program. That's what I'm looking forward to.
You got to be a pretty good video game player to do that, JW. You got to be a pretty good video game player.
JW, you just spoon-fed me a joke that I've been saying for years. What does a South Carolina fan do when they win the national championship? They turn off the PlayStation and they go to bed. You just put it right in my hands.
Hey, look, hey.
Hey, we
have to get a lot of console people to help you coach this season.
We appreciate the phone call, man. Call anytime, 844-FAN-PHONE. That's the way you can get in touch with the show.
I do wonder, Cole, how much of real-time player movement, for example, in the transfer portal or coaches who get fired or take new jobs, how that will change the video game in real time. Can what happens in real life affect what happens in the video game?
All right, I have some incredible audio coming your way. I ask you, the Tolo, you choose between audio A or audio B. Which one is better? I'll have that piece of audio for you and let you decide. I'll let Diesel decide as well. Next, this is the Fan Upstate. I said I had 2 pieces of audio. I lied to you. I actually have 3.
Oh.
Okay. I told you I was never good at math.
Oh.
Math's never been my strong suit. So I actually have 3 pieces of audio here, Diesel.
What is this, Common Core audio?
Common Core audio. I couldn't pass anything else, so I had to stay in Common Core. Eventually, they sent me back down to coloring, okay? But it happens. It happens. Not everybody's good at math. You know your strengths and weaknesses. On these 3 pieces of audio, I want you to rank them 1, 2, 3. You, the Tolos, you, the audience, as well. 71307. Start your text with the word fan. We appreciate JW hopping in after the phone call on the stream. Good to have you with us, my man. Diesel, 3 pieces of audio that I did censor, and they are curse word free. I want you to tell me which audio you think's the best of the 3 and the worst of the 3. What piece of audio really does it for you? I'm going to start with Luka Doncic's. Last night after the win, there was one fan the entire game, Diesel, that Luka was going back and forth with. This is pretty funny. Here's Luka.
Was there one fan in particular that you kept going at early on? Yeah. What was that about? Oh, I can't tell you. If I tell you, I can sue him.
Jeez. Luka says at the podium, if I tell you what the fan said, I could sue him. So
that gets me going.
He says that gets me going.
Knows that by now, so.
Obviously, players love the fans, giving them the juice, right?
Unless it's LeBron. He has fans removed.
Shut it. Don't go there. That's never happened before, Diesel. That's never happened. So Luka audio saying, listen, if I tell you what he said, I could sue him, which kind of does throw up a flag of caution to me. Like, man, it must have been really bad. Okay, so you have the Luka audio. I know Luka's a fan favorite. You also have Diesel Ocho Cinco. That's right, the former Cincinnati Bengal, Chad Ocho Cinco. Him and Shannon Sharp have a fantastic podcast. Well, guess what Ocho Cinco did over the weekend? He tried to ride a bull. I mean, like a professional bull, right? According to him.
Not a honky-tonk bar bull?
Not a bull in the local bar. Here's audio with Chad Ocho Cinco.
There are professional bull riders. Let me finish. There are professional bull riders that have been doing this all their life. When the chute opens, they fall off in 1.5 seconds, just like I did.
No,
do you know what that means? Do you know what that means? I can show you because I had to study him. I had to study him before I got on that bull. The fact that I was able to stay on there for 1.5 seconds says a lot.
You ain't staying on there 1.5 nothing.
That's what
1.5 nanoseconds.
That's how it goes.
They opened the chute. That bull, you didn't even let the bull spin, and you was off it.
Because there's too much power. I didn't know how to gauge his power because I'd never been on a bull before. That wasn't just any bull. It's a professional bull. It's a
professional bull.
Hey, listen. I'm from Liberty City. I ain't never seen a bull. The only thing I've ever seen was a raccoon.
Yeah. Well, you had a better chance of riding him than that bull.
Hey, listen, I got on that though.
That's fantastic.
Hey, that takes some serious cajones to get on top of a bull like that.
Yes, it does.
1.5 seconds on top of a professional bull probably feels like an eternity.
I couldn't do it. All right.
No, that's scary as hell.
Here's the third piece of audio. This comes out of the state of Michigan. A district judge in Michigan was shocked when a man with a suspended driver's license joined a court Zoom call. Well, guess what the driver or the fella who had the suspended driver's license, guess what he was doing while on the Zoom call? Here's this audio.
Assistant Public Defender Natalie Tate for Mr. Harris, who should be present in Zoom.
Mr. Harris, are you driving?
Actually, I'm pulling into my doctor's office, actually. So just give me 1 second. I'm parking right now.
So for those that can't see the video, Diesel, this guy has his phone on video. The video is continuing right now, by the way. He's parking in his car. And what did I tell you he was in court for? Here you go.
I'm pulling in right now at this second. Yes, I am.
All right. What are we doing?
Your Honor, we are respectfully requesting an adjournment in this matter, up possibly 2 to 4 weeks if the court would allow.
So maybe I don't understand something. This is a driving while license suspended?
That is correct, Your Honor.
And he was just driving. And he didn't have a license.
So that's not the best thing to do if you're.
So he was in court for driving with a suspended license.
Yes.
And then he joins his court Zoom call while driving again on a suspended license.
I wouldn't recommend that, buddy.
What an idiot.
I'm all part
What
now,
an
though.
idiot.
He was so happy.
I mean, obviously with a suspended license, you can't drive at all. Maybe this guy thought that, it's kind of like a house arrest situation where you can go to only limited places. Maybe that's what he thought.
Sounds pretty stupid.
I thought maybe he was like, I could still go to my doctor's office on a suspended license. No, you can't.
Hey, big dog, I hate to tell you, that ain't how that works.
Stupid is, stupid does, Mrs. Blue.
Stupid is and stupid does.
Eliminate number one. That's not it.
Okay, no Luca.
No Luca. I love that audio. That is fantastic audio, but I love idiots doing stupid things.
I do too.
So it's between Ocho Cinco, proud of himself for getting on top of a professional bull whose power he couldn't gauge and staying on it for 1.5 seconds. You know what he was trying to say there? He was trying to say professionals do this their whole lives and they only stay on it for 1.5 seconds.
Correct.
So I am as good as a pro bull rider at riding a bull. That's where he was trying to go with this. I think the best audio is number 3, though. It's by far number 3.
The court date
where he shows up on a Zoom call while driving, but he's supposed to be in court for a suspended license.
What are you here for? Sir, I ain't supposed to be driving. What are you doing right now? I'm driving, but I'm parked.
How does he even is that what they're doing now with courts now?
Some
are
of
they doing Zoom calls now?
Yeah, some of them do.
Wow.
Not that I know. I've just seen it on TikTok.
It's like, dude, come on, man. Pull in, move over to the passenger seat. You could have driven to where you needed to be. Maybe that was his plan. He's like, I'm going to get here. I'm going to be in the parking space by 2:55 so that at 2:58, I can be in the passenger seat and it won't look like I was driving. But he got caught.
Thrown in the clink.
What an idiot.
Shane Connuck next. Every single Friday at this very time, we bring in Shane Connuck of the Charlotte Observer. Shane, I have to admit, I was excited. I was ready to watch the Coca-Cola 600. However, it seems that the rain dampened the party. Do you feel like what you saw last Sunday was kind of a letdown?
It was. This is the longest race of the NASCAR Cup Series season. This is a crown jewel event. This race awards the most points of any other of the 38 races on this schedule. And we barely got more than half of it with all the weather that we saw this weekend. But it was a really tough decision for both NASCAR and the folks at Charlotte Motor Speedway and Speedway Motorsports, which owns that and several other tracks. Tough call, tough decision. They tried to wait it out, but in the end, the particularly high humidity that day, on top of the fact that we would have been probably racing till 3, 4 in the morning, just wasn't going to happen.
Shane, Charlotte Motor Speedway touted that this year's 600 was the third 600 in a row that had sold out. Now, it certainly helps when you remove about 75,000 seats to sell out a venue like that. But how do you explain, a race like Charlotte and a venue like Charlotte Motor Speedway being able to sell out consistently when we've seen attendance woes at a lot of other places and we see ratings drop off at a lot of other places? Why is it that Charlotte has been able to hold on to that attendance so well?
Charlotte is a really important market for this sport. Like everywhere that NASCAR goes in the Carolinas, a lot of people in North Carolina and parts of Virginia and parts of South Carolina grew up around the sport, grew up around short tracks, grew up around bigger tracks that hosted occasional NASCAR races. And because of that, when NASCAR still in 2024, when you've got Formula One going all over the world, now really tapping into the United States, you've got IndyCar still being what it is, and NASCAR trying to push tapping into new markets to the point that it's racing on the streets of downtown Chicago, going out to California and going to these new markets. It's so important that NASCAR isn't just something that happens once or twice a year in this part of the country. It's important that people in this area, the Carolinas, and again, even Virginia, that kind of part, that those people are likely to be watching NASCAR, or people there are likely to be watching NASCAR every single week. And so it is so important when NASCAR Cup Series, the highest circuit, comes to tracks in that part of the country, that those races attract not only the people who grew up around the sport, and to them going to the Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte Motor Speedway is a crown jewel. It is that big of a race, but also that you have a lot of people who live in Charlotte, who have moved to Charlotte, who have moved to North Carolina, and they did not grow up with any NASCAR. But for the same reasons that there are a lot of people in Charlotte who didn't necessarily grow up with MLS, but go to Charlotte FC games consistently because it's a local thing to do. The Coca-Cola 600 is, in a lot of ways, epitomizes a local thing to do if you're a sports fan in this area, because it is a niche thing. It is a little bit different. And if you're in Charlotte, you grew up in North Carolina, Virginia, you might not be a NASCAR fan at all, but this might be the kind of thing that would bring you out the same way that a baseball game might bring average people out in a lot of other cities where that's something that's always been there. So anytime NASCAR comes to this part of the country, it's going to have a lot of those people who might not go to races all the time. They go into one race a year or one race here and there. Okay, I went to a race, I get it. And you're going to have a lot of people who consistently go, and it's that important of a time on the schedule. So not just having the Coke 600 this past weekend on Motorsports Christmas, as they say, along with the Indy 500 and Monaco Grand Prix for Formula One, but having Darlington followed by North Wilkesboro and the All-Star race, followed up to cap it off 3 straight weeks with the Coca-Cola 600 or 373.5 in this year's case. It is really important for NASCAR because this is the sport's home.
You know, Shane, when we had the bubble in the NBA, there was an asterisk, supposedly, beside the Lakers' bubble win. Do you put an asterisk beside Christopher Bell's win on Sunday?
I would not compare those two situations, but because here's the thing about Christopher Bell on Sunday, he was, for the amount of racing that we had, the deserving winner. He led the most laps. Ty Gibbs and William Byron started alongside each other on the front row, also led a lot of laps themselves, each of them, but it was Christopher Bell who worked up through the field, got to the front, and really paced the field for a good part of the race that we saw. I think that knowing how long that race is, a lot would have went down after that. And no, I do not think Christopher Bell necessarily would have ended up winning it, because I don't think that most of the time the guy who's leading in the middle of the second to last stage is the guy who ends up in victory lane. So it's, yes, maybe not an asterisk, but it can't be looked at as a typical race winner. But at the same time, it always is so random who ends up winning every race. So Christopher Bell is absolutely a deserving winner because of the performance he had in the race that we saw, the part of the race that we saw. But no, he probably would not have been the winner had the race gone the full distance.
Shane Connuck of the Charlotte Observer covers NASCAR, joins us here on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Now that we're halfway through the season, Shane, we got some big names that are staring at elimination from the playoff. Who needs a win most this weekend at Gateway?
Yeah, I mean, we have this year really seen a lot of the same winners in a lot of ways. Denny Hamlin has 3 wins. William Byron has 3 wins. Kyle Larson has 2 of them. Christopher Bell has now 2. Those guys are all among your better drivers. Chase Elliott's won a race. Now Brad Keselowski has a win. Tyler Reddick. Daniel Suarez's triumph down in Atlanta in the 3-wide finish in the second race of the year is really the only driver who's won this year that maybe you didn't expect to be a winner at this point in the season. So there are a lot of drivers, even defending series champion Ryan Blaney, who has yet to get a win. Martin Truex Jr. sits second in the standings, has been having a good year as he usually does, but has not gotten to victory lane. I think that we're getting to a point in the season, though, where it's a matter of time before Alex Bowman gets a win. At this point, he is constantly recording top 10 finishes. He's running well just about every race. And you look at other drivers who end up getting victories and then other times can't crack the top 10. And it seems like Alex Bowman, for how consistent he's been, only 8th in the standings right now. He will need a win sometime soon to really be considered among those top Hendrick drivers.
You know, what's interesting to me, Shane, is a guy like Kyle Larson already got a spot. He won 2 of the first 13 races, but that eligibility now in doubt because he missed the Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte Motor Speedway. What do you think NASCAR will do with this situation?
This is an interesting ongoing story right now because it was widely expected that Kyle Larson, once he decided to stay in Indianapolis on Sunday and run in the Indy 500, which was delayed about 4 hours, because of that, he wasn't able to get to Charlotte in time for the start of his Cup Series points-paying race in which he led the standings going in. It felt like he would not, Hendrick Motorsports rather, would not have had him run in the Indy 500 had they not known from NASCAR that they would get a waiver that would allow Kyle Larson to get the points that Justin Allgaier got in coming in 13th place in the Coca-Cola 600 in his car. However, it feels now like because NASCAR has yet to make any stance official on this, NASCAR seemingly has granted waivers for just about everything that's happened before. There have been drivers who have gotten suspended and NASCAR has ended up granting them a waiver. So everybody is kind of just watching on this whole week. And really, as every single day goes by, people think it's really bizarre that NASCAR has yet to make any decision, considering that it feels like Hendrick wouldn't have done it to begin with, A, and B, everybody else has already gotten a waiver who's been in that stance. But my opinion on this is that you are a driver in the NASCAR Cup Series, the highest series, the most competitive circuit in all of motorsports. That is your full-time job. Kyle Larson drives the number 5 car for Hendrick Motorsports, a top team in the top level of motorsports in NASCAR. And when it came down to the reality that even though he was flying back to his Cup races and qualifying, in addition to practicing during the weeks leading up to the Indy 500, making it work when it became clear that if he ran in Indy, that race would end after his Cup Series race started, and he made the decision to stay in Indy. He had said earlier in the week, in previous weeks leading up, that, oh, my priority, I drive for Hendrick Motorsports, is to be in the NASCAR Cup Series. And I'm going to try and fly to North Wilkesboro and fly to Charlotte. But then as soon as the Indy 500 looked like it was going to be impacted by the weather, his tune changed to, oh, I want to be here. My priority is to run in the Indy 500 as a driver, that's all that. And so I think that once you make that decision, you made the decision, and it doesn't feel like a right precedent to set for NASCAR to say, oh, okay, yeah, one of our guys didn't run in the race this week. Oh, okay, we'll give them the points anyway. What if now over these next few months, as NASCAR isn't anywhere in the Carolinas, anywhere in the Southeast, it's going all over and drivers say, oh, I want to run in a late model race at some point. They can't just do that because what's the precedent? Why is it okay for Kyle Larson to run the Indy 500, but it's not okay for any other driver to just miss a race? It's an interesting situation, and it's a precedent that is going to be set no matter what's decided. And the fact that it's been almost a week now and Kyle Larson still doesn't have the waiver is an interesting situation.
Shane, it's like imagining Patrick Mahomes misses an NFL game for an Arena League game, but he wants his backup Carson Wentz's stats to still count towards his MVP race. Like it's a fascinating scenario to have that come out. Shane, what do you see becoming of the displaced Stewart-Haas racing teams now that we've got the news that operation is going to shut down?
Yeah, that was not what I expected. Stewart-Haas Racing has seemed like it's going the wrong way, seemingly like it just doesn't have a driver like who's going to become the next Kevin Harvick or close to it, and that at worst, Stewart-Haas could downsize to maybe only have 2 or 3 charters in the Cup Series instead of being one of just a couple of teams to have 4 cars at the highest level of the sport. And all it took was early this week, early into this year, Tony Stewart has his other ventures with NHRA right now. Gene Haas also owns a Formula One team. And they decided just a difficult decision, not going to work out. And Stewart-Haas Racing is actually not going to be in the sport anymore, not to mention just the 4 Cup cars, but they have several in the Xfinity Series as well. One of the biggest teams in the sport since 2009 when it started, 69 wins in the Cup Series, multiple championships. The end of a quick era, but also these teams had, other than Hendrick Motorsports, which has been around for 40 years now, most of these teams, Joe Gibbs Racing has only been around since about the 90s and has really been the main team with Toyota that now seems like it's been in the sport for a long time. So my point is just, it seems like these teams have kind of come and gone in some ways more than you'd think, considering that they're these legendary teams. And that now the other part of it is the sport has changed, that before you had a lot of owners and they might own 2 cars or 3 cars. And now you're starting to have teams where you have multiple owners, and you have owners of the status of people like Michael Jordan and Pitbull who have some involvement with a team, and all these different teams that are trying to bring different perspectives to the sport are trying to obtain various charters, whether that's 2 cars, 3 cars, or a lot of the smaller teams, 1 car. Now we'll have 2, now we'll have 3. And this is now allowing us to see teams like 2311 Racing grow into becoming prominent teams in the sport that are doing things differently than they've ever really been done before. And then a team like Stewart-Haas now just already coming out of the sport, and Ford likely to lose a few spots in the Cup Series as a result.
Shane, talk to us about the Worldwide Technology Raceway, only the 3rd time that the Sprint Cup has been there. It's unique because it obviously has 11-degree banking in turns 1 and 2. The first winner of the Xfinity Series we saw was Elliott Sadler back in 1997, but not a ton of racing here as of late. What makes this unique in your opinion?
It's a unique track. It's going to be one of the only times, like you said, that we see NASCAR go there in general, that part of the country, right outside of St. Louis and Madison, Illinois, where it is. I think that it's another mile and a quarter race that is going to see, again, it's an important point of the season. We're starting the second half at this point. The Coke 600 being that we didn't get what we thought we were going to kind of get last week. We're getting to a point in the season where, like we talked about at the top, some of these drivers really, really need wins. Martin Truex Jr., to have as strong of a year as he's having in the points like he does every year, but to not have a victory, and then to have drivers like Alex Bowman who haven't gotten a victory lane but just continue to put together strong runs, we're getting to a point where I think that's just the most important thing. And Gateway is a unique track that we haven't seen a whole lot of in this year, where mile and a half has kind of seemed similar in a lot of ways in terms of the racing. Super speedways have been a little bit more unpredictable and anything crazy can happen. And we're getting to the point now where certain drivers really need wins, and some of these races are only going to get crazier. So Gateway could be the next one to provide that.
Shane, I want to think big picture here. Is the variety of tracks and locations that seems to be NASCAR's push right now is to expand into different markets? Is that a good thing when you compare it to what you even said earlier in this drop, when we were talking about NASCAR in North Carolina and South Carolina, the attendance being so strong when you bring it back to its traditional roots? I mean, how does NASCAR feel about this? I mean, clearly they love it because they continue to do it, but how do you justify that in your mind of watching the traditional tracks still sell very, very well, yet NASCAR still wants to go into new places?
I think it's tough because I grew up in New Jersey, and I didn't grow up around NASCAR, and it would be really hard for NASCAR to just put a track in a place like that. So that's why they've tried to go into bigger cities like Chicago and go race in their downtown. They try to go to places like California and hype up the Clash before the season that NASCAR's coming to a place like the LA Coliseum in its non-traditional area. It seems like, I believe firmly, again, coming from a place where I didn't grow up around the sport and I realized how much I know about certain sports from just being exposed to them, that it's very important to get into new markets however you could do it. But at a certain point, you can't lose who you are. And I think that NASCAR has been in a unique situation that it's been trying so hard to get new fans for a long time now that in a lot of ways it stopped doing some things that made it what it is. And so I think that when you have 3 straight weeks in a row that we just had with Darlington going to such an old place like North Wilkesboro, it doesn't get more NASCAR than that. And then to go to new places like even Phoenix, the fact that they've had the championship out in southwest of Phoenix, Arizona, just in the middle of the desert in Avondale, Arizona, and there's this huge racetrack on Jimmy Johnson Way, and they're able to draw thousands and thousands to it in a market as big as Phoenix, even though there's a lot of negative talk about Phoenix continuing to host the championship. There's something to be said about the aspect of the part of the Phoenix community that does consistently since 2020, 2021 come out for the NASCAR championship. And if you're NASCAR, you really, really do need those new fans. But as long as you're keeping yourself, and in some ways, in the places where you are in this area, and having the sport continue to be having teams based out of North Carolina, that's another really important piece, that it can go to California, it can go to Homestead, it can go wherever it goes, but they're always coming back here every week. And then when it gets to be an important time for motorsports, they keep everybody home.
Shane, great stuff as always, man. We appreciate you hopping on with us and talking a little NASCAR. Hope you have a great weekend, man.
You guys as well. Great talking with you guys. A lot of good college baseball happening, a lot of sports happening. It's an exciting time as we roll into June.
Heck yeah, man. Always appreciate you. That's Shane Connuck of the Charlotte Observer.
Man, this music sounds like a early 2000s fight video game.
Yeah, it does. It does sound a little bit interesting.
Could you give me can you give me just the beginning of the round 1 fight over this?
Let's see. Depends how good I am. I don't know if I'm that good. It does sound like some kind of mystic.
Yeah.
Huh.
That sounds like some fight game music. I like that one.
It does sound interesting. I had not heard that one yet.
Let's spend the rest of the show talking about our bed music.
No, Jim Rome has that slot. Jim Rome has
Bellevue,
that
Calgary is
slot.
not available right now.
Listen, Jim Rome, for as good as he is, I will admit right now, I'm not a Jim Rome hater. I don't have anything against Jim Rome, but he's obviously done something right because he is one of the most popular sports media personalities in the world and makes millions of dollars. So he's done something right. However, if you want to talk about somebody who small talks, I mean,
just Google his net worth.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
Just take a guess. Tolo's watching live right now. This is probably
I say 20 million.
It's probably uncouth to talk about somebody's net worth, and I don't know again if this is 100% accurate. I'm just going off of what Google says. You Tolos who are watching on the stream, give me a number real quick. If you're texting in, you text in a number real quick, 71307. Start your text with keyword fan. What do you think Jim Rome's net worth is? I'm going to give you 10 seconds. Madcraft's got his in. Mad, you're a little low.
What? Low? God.
Yeah.
Madcraft's
That
low?
means you're way low.
What?
Okay. According to celebritynetworth.com,
yeah,
Jim Rome is worth $110 million.
So he's doing okay, is what you're
doing
saying.
All right. That's why he wasn't in Space Jam 2. He didn't need the money.
We get told by our bosses, look, cut the small talk, get right to the point. But Jim Rome spends 8 hours talking about how he finally got on Twitter stream and acts like it's some new discovery. Jim, you're late to the party. Wire to Wire's already streaming, right? I'm kidding. I'm kidding for those out there.
Please don't make a phone call and get us
right.
fired.
I'm saying all this tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
But I will drive from Spartanburg to Greenville, which is a long drive during the middle of the day with traffic, Diesel, and I don't hear any sports. But Jim's earned that right. You know, he is Jim Rome. When you reach Jim Rome status,
he's no longer a sports media personality.
That's right.
He is just a personality.
You can talk about whatever you want. If you want to talk about your favorite Mexican restaurant for 45 minutes, guess what? If your name's Jim Rome, you can do it. If your name's Cole Bryson, get back to sports. All right, that's what we're going to do. Get back to sports. South Carolina Gamecocks, Diesel. They walked it off, a sacrifice fly. And I want to bring up something that happened over the break. You know, we're told that we need to be up to date on this show, right? Keep it relevant. Well, I want to read you a message that I got during the break from a Gamecock fan, okay? And I'm not going to reveal the name of this Gamecock fan, Diesel, but I am telling you that, let's see, 9 minutes ago, I received a message on my Twitter at the Cole Bryson from a anonymous Gamecock fan.
Well, you know who he is. You just won't tell everyone else who he is.
That's correct. I do. I don't want to tell everybody who he is. But he does have a pretty big Twitter following. Here's what the Gamecock fan said. You're right, but a good portion of this fan base wants him fired more than they want him to win. It's something they will not admit. It's a battle I have fought all year.
Wow.
So if you're wondering what he means by you're right, we were having a conversation a couple of days ago, and I was going back and forth with JD on Twitter, one of our Tolos, about this just a few minutes ago, because I tweeted out Diesel. I said, hey, did Kingston need that or what? Right? Like that. He needed that one. So JD says, yeah, we needed that bad. He continued to make poor decisions, and the players continued to bail him out. My response to JD was, you know what's comical? You South Carolina fans will find anything to blame Kingston on. So my point is, Diesel, there are a large contingent of South Carolina Gamecock fans who aren't happy with the baseball program, including the guy who messaged me on Twitter during the break. And again, I'm not going to bring up his name, but he said, you're right. It's something that a lot of South Carolina Gamecock fans won't admit, but they're pulling for the coach to lose when in reality, they'll tell you they're not. So I asked a question, Diesel, to you and to our audience, our Tolos, that stands for Turn It On, Leave It On. Is it 110% against the rules of sports fandom to pull for your team to lose if it means the coach you don't like gets fired?
No, it's not. It should never be against the rules to want your program to improve. And South Carolina Gamecock fans have heard this song enough times to know that Mark Kingston will not win you a College World Series. Flat out. He will not win you a College World Series. And that is your expectation as Gamecock fans. You've earned that because you won multiple baseball national championships under Ray Tanner. You expect to be there in Omaha. You expect to be fighting for championships.
Sure.
And Mark Kingston is not getting it done for you. So I've got no problem with you saying we need to move on and get a new head coach no matter what. And we all know what that no matter what means, right? We're not stupid here. We know what has to happen. We know that Ray Tanner will not fire Mark Kingston if he advances to Omaha. Even though we know that in 2025, 2026, and 2027, because you know we would get an extension if he got to Omaha, that you're still going to be in this same boat where you're losing more conference games than you're winning. You expect to be elite. You expect to win a heck of a lot more conference games than you lose. You expect to be better than Tennessee. You expect to be better than A&M.
Yeah.
You expect to be better than Alabama and Arkansas and Vanderbilt, but you're not right now. So I'm with you, Gamecock fans, you suffering Gamecock fans who want nothing more than for your program to improve. But you know you've got an AD who won't do anything about it if he wins.
So the moral of the story is, I think as a fan, whether you're a South Carolina Gamecock fan or a Clemson fan, which makes up the majority of our audience, right? There is nothing wrong, in my opinion, and Diesel's opinion, for wanting change. Now, you may say, well, guess what? The rules of sports fandom are you can pull for your team, but you don't have to pull for your coach. Well, I had somebody comment that on my Facebook a couple of weeks ago, Diesel, when I asked this question. Somebody said, hey, you pull for the university, you pull for the players, but that doesn't mean you pull for the coach.
They are tied at the hip. You cannot separate them.
That's what I was about to say. My point, my reaction, my pushback on that argument is there's no way you can say I'm pulling for the university, I'm pulling for the players, I'm pulling for Ethan Petrie and Cole Messina, but I'm not pulling for Mark Kingston. I know that the heat is on, and I know that South Carolina fans aren't happy with Mark Kingston because Ray Tanner did take him to 2 national championships back-to-back, right? I understand that Ray Tanner set a very high bar, but I also understand, Diesel, that the bar that he set is a very high bar. What I mean by that is if it were easy, as I've said 100 million times on this show, if it were easy to do, everybody would be doing it. I'm not disagreeing with you, Diesel, that he shouldn't be fired. I'm just saying I do look at it from a little bit different perspective of he's done a good job. Has he won the national championship? No, he has not. He has not won it all in Omaha. And I know that's South Carolina fans' expectations, but as an athletic director, you do have to act and think with a little bit of sense and not just assume that it's national championship or bust or you're out of here, because you're not going to find a head coach anywhere that can win a national championship every single year.
That's looking for the Nick Saban of college baseball. And even Nick Saban didn't win it every year.
Right.
Trey says, I still want Landon Powell to be the coach. South Carolina was so close to 3 straight. Yeah, Landon Powell seems to be very happy up there at NGU. He said the only job that he would leave for would be South Carolina. I guarantee people are throwing offers at him every single year. So he's had chances.
He has had chances.
The question is how long is he going to be willing to be patient?
You know, here's the issue. What people have to understand about getting hired, not just in sports as a head coach, but any job. Yes, it's about talent. Yes, it's about being able to evolve. But, man, a lot of things have to do with timing, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know as well as I do, Diesel, that whenever you get a job, whenever you make a major life decision, a lot of it has to do with timing. Is Landon Powell qualified, in my opinion, for the South Carolina job? Absolutely. He's a Gamecock. He went there, went on to play Major League Baseball, had an incredible career as a whole when you look at his totality of college and pros, called a perfect game in the pros, took North Greenville to unprecedented heights, rebuilt that program, won a national championship at a D2 level, which is hard to do, by the way. People don't know because of scholarships. I do think he's qualified. However, the pushback, I would say to you, Trey, in wanting Landon Powell, there's nothing wrong with that, but the timing better be right. Was the timing right when Chad Holbrook got fired and Ray Tanner was told, look, you can't go hire another buddy. You got to go hire somebody from the outside. The timing may have been right then, but the timing may not be right now. I don't know. I'm just speculating. The timing does have to be right, though. That's a fact. Wherever you go, coach, or wherever you go get a job at, timing's a big part of it. As Diesel said, he is very happy where he is. His family's from here. His wife's family's from here. So I think he's happy at North Greenville. South Carolina, though, they do know that Landon Powell's in their backyard. They're not oblivious to it, right? But at the end of the day, Diesel, Ray Tanner and the board, remember, people, you have to remember the board has a lot more to do with it than you realize.
Mm-hmm.
The board's going to be telling Ray Tanner, just like they did with the last hire, here's what you have to spend, and Ray Tanner can't do anything about it. That's the way it works in college baseball. You're either in the red or you're not. And there's only one team in the entire country that's not in the red in college baseball. So it's a big decision. I just do not think this year, Diesel, if I had to put all my money on it right now, I don't think it happens.
But you might even be able to get Landon Powell for a discount. You know?
You would be able to get him cheaper than a lot of other coaches.
You'd be able to get him. You might be able to get the home team discount and get Landon for less. I mean, no matter what you pay him, it's going to be a big pay raise from what he's making with NGU.
Sure.
I have no idea what he's making with NGU. I'm sure he's doing very fine for himself. South Carolina can just simply afford to pay more. It is what it is.
They can. It's interesting, though, and I understand the frustrations of Gamecock fans. I really do. There's nothing wrong with wanting to keep your program at the heights that Ray Tanner built. There's nothing wrong with that, but you also have to be realistic.
I can't think of a single, and help me out, maybe this has happened before. I just don't know. I can't think of a single coach off the top of my head who was like an embattled coach who won exactly when they needed him to, and he was still let go anyway. Can you guys think of anybody like that? I mean, Brad Brownell would have been an example like that if Graham Neff had chosen to move on from him, if they'd only reached the Sweet 16 to the round of 32.
These are only coaches I can think of like that are in the NBA, like
Okay.
Mike Budenholzer. Let's say, for example, with my Dallas Cowboys, Jimmy Johnson, right, with Crazy Jerry back in the 90s. Jerry won it, and you know what happened with Jimmy and Jerry, and even with Tom Landry and Jerry. There's been a lot of mess ups there. Mike Budenholzer is a good example.
You reading these names reads like a Hanna-Barbera cartoon.
Yeah.
Tommy and Jerry?
Yeah. Sadly, it does.
Yeah.
And that's what it
and
is.
It was a clown show. Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. Used to not be that way. I can think of Frank Vogel in the NBA, similar situation, won a championship, got fired. It doesn't happen a lot, especially winning at the highest level and then getting fired. But it is interesting.
Texter says Coach Powell has done a masterful job of rebuilding NGU's roster year in and year out. Can't imagine the challenges NGU and other D2s face with the transfer portal. I mean, we've had him on a couple of times over the past couple of years. You and I have had him on, and just now the first 49 episodes of our show. Today wraps up episode number 49. We've had him on. He's a fantastic leader of men. He's told us about, just the amount of transfers that he has coming in. He doesn't have a whole lot of transfers going out. That certainly says a lot about the culture that Landon Powell has built there at NGU. But Ray Tanner's got a tough decision in front of him. I fear for Gamecock fans that he's going to put you in a position where you're going to continue to be frustrated for years to come. That's just my fear for you. Cole, when we come back, we're going to take one more look at all these scores going on. We have the next round of games. They're getting deep into those games, and we'll be able to take a look at some of those scores for you, get to some of the finals, and take a quick look at our daily wires on the other side, right here on the Fan Upstate.
You're wired to diesel income.
What a fantastic finish if you're a South Carolina Gamecock fan for the game against James Madison. A walk-off in the bottom of the 10th, a pop fly to center field, scored the game-winning run, and the South Carolina Gamecocks stay in the winner's bracket in the Raleigh Regional.
Hey, the real question is, where would the Gamecocks be this year without Cole Messina? I mean, seriously.
Yeah, you're right. Quick look at some of the games that are still active. We are in the top of the 9th. Arkansas has opened up a can on Southeast Missouri State, 17-9.
What?
Cole? Wow, 17-9. I'm going to take a quick look at the box score of
Like
that
17
game.
runs?
17 runs. Yeah, that's a football score.
Jeez, what an ugly game.
Yeah, they scored 7 in the second, and it was top of the 5th game was tied 8-8, top of the 5th. But then Arkansas shut them down from then on. They scored, Southeast Missouri scored 1 in the 7th, but Arkansas scored 2 in the 5th, 4 in the 7th, 3 in the 8th. And there we are.
That
They're
is
in the
rough,
top
man.
of the 9th, 17-9 baseball game. Arkansas handling business for the SEC in that one.
As ugly as I thought it was.
It was. That was ugly. Let's see here, Cole. We have a lot of games that are just going final, so they're moving around and jumping around on our scores page. Let me scroll back down. Oregon was able to stave off San Diego, 5-4 win for the Beavers. 8-7 Georgia over Army. Florida State, no problems with Stetson, 7-2. Virginia beat Penn 4-2. East Carolina crapped the bed. They choked against Evansville.
Man.
That's a 43-win baseball team that was hosting the regional that lost 4-1.
They've got pitching issues, but
They
man,
do.
today they just had some offensive issues at the plate as well. Didn't expect that.
Maybe they're saving their best pitching for the second round, the losers
Yeah,
bracket.
that's what they're doing.
Wofford couldn't hold off LSU, 4-3 win for the Tigers. Coastal Carolina gets it done against Vanderbilt, 13-3, man. Spanked the Commodores. A good Commodores team, not a great Commodores team. 38 wins on the season. Duke took it on the chin versus UConn. That feels very much like a basketball. It doesn't even feel like it should be a baseball matchup, but in baseball, UConn gets the better of Duke 4-1. South Carolina, again, 8-7 over James Madison. Florida, Nebraska has just gone final. Florida, one of the worst teams to make this tournament, Cole, gets the win over Nebraska, 5-2. And that was the only, what do they call them in baseball? Do they call them majors, like mid-majors and majors, Power 5, Group of 5?
Yeah.
Well, that was the only major on major matchup in the first day.
How about that?
5-2. Florida gets it done over Nebraska. All those games are final. We have our second round of games that a lot of these were first pitch at 6:00.
That's going back to Coastal.
Yeah.
In that regional, it was a fascinating regional with High Point, Clemson, Coastal, and Vandy. And we talked about it earlier, but with Vanderbilt losing today, it really sets Clemson up for a really, hopefully, a good run over the next few days, because we all know, Diesel, they're going to take care of High Point tonight, right? We would assume. Clemson moves on past High Point. Well, they get Coastal, not Vandy. So Vandy, if they run into Clemson, if they continue to survive, would have to beat Clemson twice. And that's a big advantage, in my opinion, for Clemson. Now, I'm not saying Coastal is going to be an easy out, but let me ask you this question, Diesel. Coastal Carolina, you scored 13 runs on Vandy. Pretty good. You held them to only 3. Does Coastal Carolina now have the fear struck in Clemson?
Well, they should. They can clearly score a lot of runs against good pitching staffs. So Clemson, I think Coastal is one of those teams that a lot of people were going to write off as saying a team that, they just kind of limped into this thing. It should be easy to take care of Coastal. Not so fast, my friend.
Well, that's fascinating because we know that Coastal Carolina was a team that was on the bubble. Their coach said that he didn't think they were going to get in. He was starting vacation. I said on the show that I didn't think they should get in. Personally, I think that a team like College of Charleston should have gotten in over Coastal Carolina, but we are where we are. Chad Holbrook, we heard his audio earlier this week, Diesel. They were a really good team, 25 conference wins, if I remember correctly. So, it's tough, but at the end of the day, the committee, the people in the room make the decision, and they haven't seen most of the teams play. So you have to You know, if you're same situation with Florida State in football, if you're College of Charleston, what do you tell them you have to do better? I mean, win them all.
Isn't that fascinating though? Chad Holbrook, obviously he had his struggles there at South Carolina, heads just down the road to Charleston, and he's got another program playing elite baseball. Weren't they a 40-win team this year?
Close to it.
So you know what? Sometimes location just really matters.
Hey, Texas is trailing Louisiana. We talked about Louisiana being a good team. Texas is not a bad team by any stretch, but live right now, Louisiana just took a 2-0 lead over Texas. So that's an interesting game to keep your eye on.
Louisiana is the class of the Sun Belt Conference. So shout out to them.
That's the
Coastal getting it done.
Is that the College Station Regional?
Yes, that is the College Station Regional. It is.
That's a bomb right there, man.
That's a fantastic backdrop. Look at that. That is a fantastic. I love college baseball regionals.
We're going to have to do a segment this summer, June or July, when it gets slow and there's no sports. Best baseball backdrops, college and pro.
Yeah.
Because Truist Field in Charlotte, downtown.
It's incredible.
That backdrop, man.
Right.
That's a tough one. App State has a great backdrop with the trees. I know it's not fall when they play baseball, but it's still a pretty backdrop in terms of it being more rural.
That's a photo. I know the photo that you're talking about that constantly gets shared around on social. When you're there, it just kind of looks like you're surrounded by trees.
Woods.
So
the photo maybe does it a little bit more.
The photo really helps. That elevated photo, that drone shot really helps. Top of the third, North Carolina up 1-0 on Long Island. Wake Forest, VCU tied. Louisiana takes the 2-0 lead over Texas, and Alabama trails UCF 4-3.
Alabama.
Thanks for listening, you Tolos who have been with us for the entire show. Madcraft, JD, all you guys, thanks for joining the show.
Appreciate
we'll see you
you
back
guys
on Monday.
Tolo, turn it on and leave it on.